a very sick child, went through nutrition, after nutritionist, allergist, studied biology in college, and then in my probably late 20s, I just kind of surrendered to the fact that every time I ate food, I would feel cloudy in the head, low energy, lethargic for a couple of hours. And it used to make me very irritable, and I'd be upset about that because it would even be hard for me to have conversations with other people after I ate healthy, organic, cooked food. I never had an allergist who said, well, maybe you should try a raw food diet. Instead, it was allergy shots or medication. And nutritionist, I tried the Candida diet, and the list goes on in terms of all the different diets that I tried so that I could actually feel normal after eating regular food, regular healthy food. So in my late 20s, I just surrendered to the fact that I had a handicap. And every time I ate, I would feel poorly, and then 2 hours later, I would feel better. And my cousin Aaron was in Oriental Medical School in Santa Monica, and that was about 11 or 12 years ago. And he was going to the kitchen in his first year, and he ran into someone in the lunchroom eating raw meat. And he was like, dude, why are you eating raw meat? And then James was his name, began to explain that he was dying of lymphoma, and that he had found his way to Aajonus' doorstep, and that he had come back to life. I don't know what he weighed. He was a tall man, but he was probably down to 120 or 130 pounds. Aajonus will share when we met him. When Aaron met him, he had come back to life. He was robust, and I think a third of the whole Oriental Medical School went on Aajonus' diet after they saw what happened to James and how he came back to life from a life-threatening disease like lymphoma. So when Aaron first told me about it, I had already been not interested. Tried everything, not available at this time to try something else. And it took me a year. I was sitting with him at dinner in Santa Monica. He had his raw meat and his avocado and had his whole thing going on his plate. And I said, all right, I'll go to the co-op on 17th Street or 16th Street in Santa Monica, and I'll buy Aajonus' book, which is this book right here, although this is the new edition. And I read 20 to 25 pages of the book, got an energetic download from it, went to the store and started the diet. And that was about 10 years ago. I weighed 175 pounds when I started the diet. Now I average about 195. I'm a little bit on the light side right now because I need more healthy raw fats, which is what Aajonus will share a lot more about. We've been bringing him in yearly for probably 8 years now, something like that. And I've seen hundreds of people come to workshops, go on the diet, and have positive effects. Not everyone has been able to stay on the diet because it's a change of lifestyle. But for me, I'm more interested in living healthy, being more conscious, being able to think clearly, being stronger, and healthier body and mind. And this diet, without a doubt, experientially over 10 years, has been, for me, the holy grail in terms of I never thought I would be able to eat food and feel good after eating food. Dave has been on a diet for 1.5 years, has had incredible results which he can share with you, and I just wanted to know that some of what you're going to hear from this man is radical. It's very different from convention. And Dave and I just want to express our appreciation in the forefront because Aajonus is one of the few people in the United States and across the world who's actually fighting the U.S. government actively every week with lawsuits against the CDC and the FDA that he's doing himself to protect our right to eat healthy food. Because the government and Monsanto and Dow and the like and the FDA are making it so farmers can't save their own seeds. You know, it's illegal for some people to save their own seeds and plant their own seeds in their farms in the United States of America. And the list goes on and on. So, Aajonus, I just want to say that, you know, I'm psyched that everybody's here. I wish we had 3,000 people because of what you're doing, and you deserve that. And, you know, we're deeply appreciative for being healthy.
Just glad more people are here to get healthy.
Did you want to share anything before?
I can talk after, it's okay.
No, go ahead.
You sort of better because when I pound, that's right down.
Well, I've been on it for a year and over 8 months, so I'm very happy about that. And, you know, I got into it for the same kind of reason as Brandon, where I was allergic to everything. Every time I'd eat, my stomach would swell. I never felt good. And since switching on the diet, absolutely everything has changed. I'm stronger now, a ton stronger than I ever was before. I feel better. I'm never bloated in my stomach anymore. My skin's better. I mean, just everything overall is healing. So I feel like I'm becoming more alive. It's made me much more clear in my mind. Like, I'm so clear, which helps me yogically, because I train people and I'm helping people with yoga. And I've always been intuitive, and I've always been able to see energy and feel it, but because of the clarity that comes from eating clean, healthy food, it's just magnified, and it's skyrocketing. And I can really attribute everything that's happened for me in the last year and a half to meeting Aajonus and being on this diet. I mean, it has just elevated everything, so it's perfect.
Thank you.
And I love it. There's such a fondness to the food.
Enjoy. Okay, what we're going to start with is, I've never had such all a young crowd here. So. Cancerous people, very sick people, so this is a breath of fresh air to be with some younger people this time. Basically, let's start off by talking about the human system. We start the digestive process in our mouth. And predominantly what we have in the mouth is not enzymes. We have thyroid enzymes, which the horse has. Breaks down a little carbohydrate. But 98% of what's in the saliva is bacteria. It is putrefactive bacteria. It means it's acidic bacteria. It is meant to digest animal tissue, animal cells. We have more bacteria in the mouth than dogs and cats, so don't bite anybody. And that starts the digestive process. You swallow, and what do we have in the stomach? Acidic bacteria to break down animal tissue again. Hydrochloric acid. The acids that you will find in a cow or any herbivore's system is an anaerobic bacteria, which breaks down vegetation. Then as we move down the lower part of the stomach, we have bile. Bile that's suited for animal fats, not for vegetation, not for vegetable oils. We don't break those down. 2% at best. We digest 100% of animal fats. So as we move into the colon, we continue to secrete small amounts of hydrochloric acid and bile to continue the digestion of proteins and fats. Now that's only 10% at best of your digestive process. 90% of that is bacteria. We have all sorts of bacteria. We have 150 bacterial genes to every one human gene. We're not even 1% human. We are bacteria. Our entire bodies are 150 bacterial genes to one gene. That means we rely upon bacteria for every process, including digestion. So the FDA's nonsense and the medical profession's nonsense about bacteria is just the opposite of the stance you want to take. The more bacteria in your food, the better. Tribes know this. Even Turks. Ever been to Turkey? They they just coat on a slab of beef that they will hang like a quarter-sided beef, gangrene. And they let the gangrene eat into it for about 3 weeks. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little longer, depending upon the weather. And then they scrape the fungus on the outside, the spores, because that can make them vomit and have diarrhea. And then they eat all that meat has been pre-digested and tenderized by gangrene. So everything you've been taught about bacteria and fungus and all that, giardia, parasites, no matter what it is, it's all wrong. It's the exact opposite. Everything that you hear from the medical profession, 99 times out of 100, if you do the opposite of what they say, you will be right. And it's that sad. When I was a child, cancer was 1 in 1,000. Now it's 1 in 3 in females and 1 in 2 in males. The medical profession and the government health departments obviously don't know what they're talking about. Because they're saying, do this for health. Nobody's getting healthier. People are getting sicker. So we need to avoid that. So all this bacteria in the intestines is doing the digestion. We eat feces and urine and sweat of bacteria. That's our food. They break down the food. They eat it. They pass fecal matter, their urine, their sweat, just like we do. And that's our food. And it's absorbed into the lacteal system, which is a fine web network attached to all of the intestinal tract that leads to the lymphatic system. It's called the lacteal system because no matter what those bacteria break down, it turns into exact color of milk. Then the lymphatic system takes it, breaks it down further, and makes it into a translucent, milky type substance that feeds the entire body. As we go into the colon, we find other putrefacted bacteria that are very different from those in the small intestine. And they are responsible for breaking down the proteins and fats into the finite molecules that feed the brain and the nervous system. So depression is a very easy thing to get rid of. You eat rotten meat. You eat rotten eggs. You eat something that's already pre-digested because your body can't do it. If you're anxious, that's a matter of exercise. That means you're producing a lot of hormones for physical activity and you're not expressing them in activity, therefore you will do it in anxiety. And that doesn't make for good relationships or a happy life. So exercise if you have anxiety. Depression, you eat pre-digested meat or dairy or eggs, something like that. And I mean rotten. And there are tribes all over the world who do it. There are tribes that are without meat sources, so they eat insects. They also eat fecal matter from the buffalo or horses or whatever they have. Why do they do this? Because the animal has pre-digested everything that is released in the fecal matter. And cows and horses and goats, they still only digest 72% of everything they eat. Average, 72% of everything they eat. They may discard 59% of it, 52% of it is they're eating more dried hay instead of fresh grasses. So that is pre-digested, so they eat it and they're able to break down vegetation. Only because it has been pre-broken down by the animals. So there's nothing taboo about everything that the medical profession says is taboo. It is an absurdity. I've lived with many tribes, many primitive tribes, and let me tell you, they don't wash their hands, they don't have soap, they go right from pooping and wiping their butt with dirt Usually they don't have to because they squat way down here to move, and there's nothing on their anus or anything. It's clean. So they don't have to wipe themselves. Sometimes, like with the infants, they do. And then they go right to handling food. And these are healthy people. I met a tribe on a remote island. It took me 3 days to get to, swimming, boating, and four-wheel driving to get there. And they live into their hundreds and 40s. And they only eat 2 foods, raw fish and raw coconut. Once in a while they have a banana or a mango, maybe once a week, but they live on 2 foods. Shoots the hell out of the USDA food pyramid, doesn't it? We only need 2 foods. I live with other tribes that just live on the raw meat. And that's it, or raw dairy and raw meat. The happiest, strongest, healthiest tribes in Africa live on raw milk and raw meat. Until the 11-year drought was practically wiped out the Maasai. And they were predominantly 65% on dairy and 35% on raw meats. And tallest, strongest, healthiest tribe in the world. Eskimos, ones that still live primitively, live 99% on animal matter. Caribou, fish, seal, no matter what it is, they eat it all animal and they eat it raw. They don't live as long. They live, the oldest is like 111 years old that I met. And when you're living in that kind of environment, tough environment where you have to go through 2 feet of ice to go fishing, that's a very strenuous lifestyle. So I can understand why they have a shorter life. Of course, it's not the shorter life that's been propagandized in publicity because they don't want you to know. They do not want you to know how healthy you can be because you cannot be controlled and you can be too smart for them and take over the government. They want you stupid. And the medical profession is run by the pharmaceutical industry. Pharmaceutical industry writes all of the procedure manuals for doctors. Literally. Merck's is this thick. And is it intent to cure anybody? No. It's to keep them maintaining their entire lives on medication. So if you're going to a medical doctor, don't look for a cure. Look for you being hooked on medication, not getting healthy. Period. That's the way it is. So, as we move down to the sigmoid colon, the body holds the matter up there, getting ready to have one solid bowel movement after you collect it after 24 hours. It also is the area which absorbs anything, any waste products of the bacteria to get it to the brain and nervous system. Some people have a lot of dryness there because that bacteria needs all the fat they can get, especially if you're eating a cooked diet, processed food diet. The quality of fats that they get are tremendously low, and the proteins are quite cauterized and warped in this shape. So the body has a lot of difficulty using it. So it causes a lot of what's called constipation. It's not really constipation. Actual constipation is when you have a block in the intestines and the food is actually not moving through. But when your body holds it up trying to get everything it needs out of poor quality food, it's going to be very dry when it moves. If you have pretty good bacteria and don't get the proper foods, you're still not going to feed your brain and nervous system properly. And cooking cauterizes your nutrients. Even pasteurizing at 100, like they used to do, 141 degrees for 15 seconds, it cauterizes 50% of the calcium. Calcium normally, when it's broken down in food, is very soft and pliable. Your potassium, your all of your alkalinizing minerals, potassium, phosphorus and magnesium, they're all very soft and pliable when they're in food and raw. Once you heat them, they begin cauterizing, they become hardened. It's like taking malleable clay and firing it at cone 1 to cone 10. They will get more hard and more brittle. As it increases in temperature, it can become like glass, like vitamin C. It will become like glass and just start cutting your insides apart, your blood cells, slicing them to pieces. You can do it to your intestinal villi the same way. So cooking foods is a very, very poor way to get your nutrients. Of course, the USDA said, you have to cook your foods. You don't break down your foods properly. Sure, if you're not eating the proper human diet, you're eating vegetables, you're not going to digest well. An herbivore has 2.5 times longer digestive tract than we do. They have 2 to 4 stomachs, we have 1. They have 60,000 times more enzymes to disassemble the cellulose molecule to get the fat and protein. So we will digest only 2% maximum of vegetation if it's raw. When it's cooked, we will absorb 23%, but highly damaged. All of it highly damaged. Still the wrong kinds of foods for our body. Our body isn't made to digest that unless you're eating cow fecal matter. Then your body can handle it and do it because it's already gone through a system of bacterial environment which is animal. So when it dumps it, it is almost in animal form. So cooking is a very, very bad thing. The higher you go, the more destruction. Vitamins are altered completely at 122 degrees. Completely cauterized and almost non-utilizable at 132. Enzymes are destroyed at 105 degrees. Start altering that. Phosphorus is one of the minerals that is so responsible for balancing the alkalinity of the body, and that's another fallacy connected to that. Not supposed to be alkaline, it's supposed to be very acidic. Any animal with putrefacted bacteria, predominantly in the intestines, is supposed to be highly acidic, 5.5. Not 6 point something and not near 7 point anything. As a lot of alternative therapists will tell you. That it's theory that's blown out of the water if you actually do laboratory testing and experimentation with fecal matter and urine. You'll see that the processes of digestion are very poor in people with alkaline. I've studied 3,200 vegetarians in my 43 years of studying nutrition, and the longer they are vegetarians, the fewer foods they can digest and eat. They end up having problems like branding. Everything they eat causes a problem. And plus they get unhealthier and unhealthier. 50% of my cancer patients have been long-term vegetarians. 50%. It's a major amount. So we are not built to be vegetarians. It's a high spiritual idea not to kill animals, but just because vegetation doesn't have a face doesn't mean that they aren't alive. They are alive. Baxter proved that with the Baxter experiments way back in the late 60s when he attached electrodes to plants and had somebody walk in the room. 1 of 10 people walk in the room and they were all instructed, why don't you go in there, the one of you that has the inclination to kill a plant, take a plant, kill it. And then walk out. If anybody comes in after that, don't destroy another plant. You just walk out of the room. So nobody knew who destroyed the plant. But it was mutilated, it had been broken, it had been beat on the ground, and stomped. And they hooked the electrodes to the remaining 9 plants. Each of those people walked in. And when the person who did that to the plant walked in, they all reacted. The polygraph machine went wild. There was another test he did. This was a little unusual. He hooked the electrodes to the plants and left them there for 3 days just to see if there was an emotional pattern in plants. He found that at lunchtime, every day, the plants just went nuts. So he sat in there a few days at those hours trying to figure out why those plants were reacting. And they weren't reacting positively, they were reacting negatively. So every time the plants reacted, there was a flushing sound. So you figured it had to do with the flushing. So what happens when you urinate? You have a lot of cells that are alive. White blood cells, other cells that leave the body, and lots of enzymes and other activity in the blood. Urine is nothing other than your blood without a lot of red blood cells in it. And depending on how much fat you have, how much fat cells you have, live fat cells in your urine. And you add a little ammonia because of the way that the kidney prevents loss of red blood cells every time you urinate is the ammonia. The ammonia keeps the red blood cells from entering the kidneys and most of the white blood cells too. So, every time you urinate, you don't become anemic. So this urine has a lot of live animal cells. He noticed that they had one of those, women probably don't know if they had one of those antibacterial discs in urinals. So as the water came down and flushed the poisons out of that disc, it started hurting the live cells. So when he took he got permission to remove those discs out of the urinals, and the next day the flushing happened, plants didn't react. Plants are just as alive as any animal. Because it doesn't have a face and you can't hear it, doesn't mean that you don't have to kill something to live. Everything kills something on this planet, dissolves it or whatever. Plants mainly eat rock. What happens? It rains, dissolves the rock, plants eat. It's still breaking down a life form, a consciousness form, whether it's rock or something. Everything is a cooperation on this planet. So I suggest that you let go of any concept of higher ideal about a diet on this planet. Leave that for the other side. You don't have to eat anything over there. I remember. And it is very nice. There is no hell there. There is only ecstasy in heaven. And there is no karma over there. There is only love and forgiveness on that side. Only here do we go through that. And why add to the suffering by trying to be something you're not? I mean, would any of you try to be an elephant? Would a horse try to eat bark like an elephant does? No. Goat may. Have you ever seen a calm, safe goat? No. They eat nails, they eat everything. Those animals are nuts. And monkeys are nuts. Monkeys are really omnivorous animals, more carnivorous. And what happens? Monkeys try to live on fruit. And what do? They are crazy. If you've ever been around monkeys who live on fruit, they are nuts. They are hyperactive. They masturbate all the time, male or female. They just have all this energy, and then they'll go into a crash and they'll sleep and they'll wake up with all that energy. And the killer monkeys are the worst. They love fermented food. So every 3 or 4 months, sometimes as long as 6 months, they'll wait until figs or bananas are highly fermented. And then they'll gorge on them for 24 to 48 hours. Then they go on a killing spree. They kill everything they see. If it's an elephant, if it's a snake, if it's a rabbit, if it's a bird, if it's an insect, They kill everything just to kill. Hitler was a vegetarian. Lived on sugar. He would put 2 tablespoons of sugar in his wine. He would take about 2 ounces of sugar and pour that over his icing cake. The man was not a sane person. That's why the Bush family and all those people put him in power. He was a crazy man. He had high ideals of all vegetarians of being a peaceful planet. But you can't do it with the same violence, that's perpetuated everywhere else. So, spirituality has nothing to do with your diet. I've had thousands of people on this diet say, oh my God, it's like Diva said, everything's so clear and easy now. I've really reached a spiritual plane. And they're eating animal foods, even rotten ones, so they can be happy and healthy. So don't discard the bacteria in your diet. It is so important for everything, every function of your body. Everything that happens is because of bacteria. 90% of every function is bacteria. Very little is enzymatic and digestive juices involving the intestines. Bacteria makes up everything. Like I say, 150 bacterial genes to every 1 human gene. 6 years ago, they believed it was 100. But when they finished figuring out the gnomes of the human, they found there was 150. There may even be more because there are generations and subgroups under those that may be 100% bacterial. We may find that we're not even 0.05% bacteria. The human. We're just bacterial objects. Bacterial objects move faster than any other organism on this planet. That's why we can be such fantastic athletes. And we can be dexterous more than any other animal because we have the tools that other animals don't have. The human is believed to be more bacterial than apes and monkeys. I've seen these primitive people that live on raw meats, only raw meats, run down a horse in full gallop, 35, 38 miles an hour. Can you imagine us ever doing that? No. Run down. And the American Indians are said to have done that as a regular thing, and they lived on raw meats. So, how does this fit into disease? Disease starts with industrial pollution, as early as cooking your foods. When you cook things, you change the chemistry of that food. You cauterize the element. How many of you would buy a Rolls Royce and then go to a junkyard to get parts for it if it breaks down? Nobody? I don't see any hands. Then why do you guys do it? Because when you cook foods, you're forcing your body to go into a junkyard to get parts to take care of your body. Doesn't make any sense. So think about that. Whole raw foods is what every animal on this planet eats, except for the human or humans that feed it to the animals. And only those animals get disease. Or the animals are subjected to some kind of industrial pollution. Processed foods. There was a time when dogs never got disease. Never got the disease. Cats never got disease. Start feeding them kibble, processed, highly chemicalized foods. Now they have all the diseases of man. Even worse, because we're injecting them every year with rabies shots. And that's got nothing nutritive in it. Everything in a vaccine, whether it's for humans or other animals, are all toxic. and you have 53 to 63 toxic ingredients. The basic ones are mercury, formaldehyde, ether, detergent, and aluminum. Can you imagine? There was a, like Saturday Night Live group in Canada that did a spoof on this for the flu vaccine when it came to that time of the year. So they were around interviewing people, do you think that, flus are good and all of that? Who sponsors them? And this free flu vaccine that you're going to get, who really pays for it? And they say, well, I guess we do, because they take our taxes to do this. And then they took a blender and said, here are the 5 basic ingredients. They broke a thermometer and dumped the mercury into it. They took a rotten egg, which they grow the disease in most of the time. So they put a rotten egg in there. And then they put ether and liquid aluminum, and then blend it all together in water. And then they offer it to people. Nobody would drink that. And why the hell would you inject that into your blood? In the last vaccine, the swine flu, they put squalene. Squalene can create 5 different types of cancers, break down your liver and destroy your kidney. Every ingredient, and even the inert, are highly poisonous. And everything you inject into your child or your animal or yourself is a poison. There is no documentation that proves vaccines are any good. When a vaccine comes out, the disease is already gone. When polio vaccine came out in '58, the disease was down to 1% already. So they took the benefit, they took the credit of destroying polio. It was absolute garbage, nonsense. The 3 states and 1 county that kept records of polio after a polio vaccine in '58, the increase in incidence of polio went up to, in some of the places, one place, up to 432% higher because of the polio vaccine. Take a look at it. You're injecting toxic diseased polio tissue in the body. You're bound to get a case of polio. But you have to look at what is polio, what is disease. When toxins enter a body part, they start breaking down the cells there. They start degenerating them or killing them. So you have a collection of dead cells that have been poisoned to death. So how does the body correct that? How does the body break down tissue? Talked about it, bacteria is the first preference. So we have janitorial bacteria that the pharmaceutical industry calls pathogenic. There is no such thing as pathogenic bacteria. Absolutely no proof whatsoever in pathogenic bacteria. What they do is they take a petri dish, they have animal cells in there, they introduce Salmonella, E. coli, and other bacteria that are normally digesting dead tissue. And what's going to happen? You have live cells in a foreign environment that are on their way to die. And they start dying very rapidly. So that bacteria eats them. And in the pharmaceutical industry, medical industry, they destroy human cells. They dissolve them. They'll eat them up. That's their job. They're eating dead animal tissue. They are putting live human cells in a petri dish where they don't normally survive. And certainly they can put in a serum to keep them stupid and dumb and functioning, just like we can put somebody on machines and keep them alive. But they're not really alive. So those bacteria can go in there to eat those. So you have to consider that's how it works. If you have so many damaged cells in a particular area, the body might promote birth, and we have those cells all within our bodies to create a parasite. A parasite can eat twice the amount of a bacteria in 24 hours and discard very little waste. Most efficient janitors in the world are parasites. Plus, almost always asymptomatic. When you have bacteria cleaning you out, cold, some pain, maybe headache, vomit, diarrhea. When a parasite works, rarely do you have symptoms because they break it down fast and most efficiently. So when somebody says, oh, you have parasites, say thank you. I'm so happy I'll get well faster. Twice as fast as you will with bacteria. I was so poisoned, I was supposed to die when I was 21. Cancer of blood, bone, stomach, and lymph. Diabetes, psoriasis, angina pectoris, and bursitis, all incurable. I was a mess from the day I was born. I became autistic at 18 months old after receiving my third tetanus vaccine. At 18 months old, I had my third one. Why? I had a brother who was 18 months old, still in diapers when I came home from the hospital, and he freaked out because I took mom's attention away like that. So he tortured me, pulled my hair, pinched me, pushed me on rakes and nails. Everything was rusty because he knew mom, being a nurse, would take me to the hospital. I'd get injections and sick. He knew the correlation between my getting something on a rusty object and going to the hospital and being very sick for months. Well, the third one, when I was 18 months, turned me autistic. I didn't even read till I was 22 years old when I was about to die. And they had given me a vagotomy pyloroplasty for the stomach cancer, which means they turned me into an octogenarian who does not digest proteins anymore. And what that means is you can't get well and you can't get strong the rest of your life. 20 years old when they did that to me. Then the incision went tumorous. I had a tumor here that was about 1.5 inches wide at the widest point and 3/4 of an inch high at the highest point. So they said we have to irradiate that. So they put me 10 weeks intense radiation therapy where this beam just went like this. Covered this whole area, like this. Well, what happens? The bolt of radiation hit me in the spine, in this area right here, cauterized my spine. Like taking malleable K, playing and firing in a kiln. So they hardened my spine. So all I had to do was move like this and I was in excruciating pain. That gave me, what does radiation therapy give you? Cancer of the blood and bone. So I got cancer of blood and bone with their treatments. And then they wanted to give me chemotherapy. 1% chance of living, but let's poison you so you're vomiting and defecating all over yourself all day long, but you'll live maybe a week longer, a month longer. That's what they estimate. These are crazy people. And their vow is when they take their oath, do no harm. I confronted an MD about that when he was arguing with me about, the risk you have to take for medication. And I said, what about your oath? Do no harm. Anything you do no harm. He said, well, we can swear on the Bible. You have to take a look at the logic of these brilliant brains that come out of the medical profession. Surely they have good minds, but their minds have been contorted into a perspective which does not generate health. So, I was left to die. A volunteer from hospice came to help me, 2 volunteers, because I would not go. I was autistic. The things I said were parroting other people, what other people said. So I had no idea about communication. I couldn't even spell the word the, knowing that it was the word the, and no concept of what the word the meant. So I just did what my uncle and family led me to do. throughout the whole time. My parents wouldn't let me look autistic. Anytime I went into despair, they'd slap me. My father slapped me on the back of the head. My mother slapped me on the back and say, "Stop looking like that. You look like a crazy person." Well, it was. And they wouldn't accept it. My father invented the first Baring computer when he was in college at Purdue. What a mind he had. He was emotionally retarded. He couldn't deal with people. And my mother was raised with, she had 12 brothers and sisters. And back then they didn't have all the pollution. They didn't have canned foods. They didn't have any of that contaminated food. So they were healthy people and they all got along. Well, she had 4 boys and none of us got along. We all fought constantly every day. We never smiled at each other in our entire childhood. And we were, of course, because my father was, an inventor and working for General Electric and these other companies that were high tech, everything that was new and scientific was perfect, without investigation. And he believed everything. So my mother was delighted when they brought in, and it was my understanding from research, that the trusts that were involved in producing war, getting America involved in World War II, was the King and Queen of England, the Windsor family. They owned 70% of all food production in the world. They wanted people on canned foods. So the hype, if you go back and look at the advertisements at that time, it was, support your troops, eat rations, eat canned food. And how the fuck am I going to support my family over there fighting the war by eating junk canned food instead of fresh foods? But that was the whole point. Everything you saw to support your troops was to eat processed junk food. That was the blitz on the radio constantly before television came out. And then when television came out, the same thing did. Same thing. Pushing processed food. My mother was ecstatic. She no longer had to take the vegetables and wash them and cut them up and cook them. She just opened a can, popped it into a pot. 3 or 4 minutes later, it was completely cooked. Because they had blanched it, they had pre-cooked it before they put it in the cans. Absolutely loved it. So we didn't have fresh food. Everything we ate was canned and full of poisons. And now we have 60,000 chemicals that go into processed foods. So every time you eat food, I don't care if it's by an organic producer, they have to meet the FDA's regulations for food passivity. It has to pass an inspection where there can be no bacteria. Bacteria is all of life. So you destroy the bacteria, you destroy life. But it's long shelf life. And that's what they're after. They're after profits. The hell with your life, your health, doesn't matter. So, disease is always created by industrial pollution. Not bacteria, not parasites, not microbes. It is all industrial pollution. So, this one volunteer, he's an 18-year-old African-American boy. Grew up in Watts. How would he have the intelligence to know anything about good, healthy, raw foods? Growing up in a very poor family. And yet, he was brilliant about it. He brought me raw carrot juice and raw milk. After drinking only that, and my diet before that, because of the surgery and everything, from the radiation, it took all the bone around my teeth, so my teeth dangled in my gums. If I bit down on my own teeth, I bled. I was getting up to 2 transfusions a week to deal with that. So I had to liquefy all my food and drink out of the big fat straws. And even then, if I sucked too hard, I could cause bleeding. And I'd be drinking my own blood. But drinking my own blood would keep me from having to have any transfusions, because I just redigest my blood. So my normal diet was powdered donuts, RC Cola, Sprite. So those went in the blender, blended them, and that's what I ate until this fellow turned me on to something else. And that was raw milk and carrot juice. Within 10 days of drinking the raw milk, raw carrot juice, my autism shut off. In other words, my brain opened. And I understood language. First time. And it was like having a light switched on. It was phenomenal. Of course, I had very little vocabulary. I heard a lot of words and I had my own definition of what they meant. And my definition stemmed from, if a word sounded nice, it had a nice definition. And that was completely wrong. But so I was full of malaprops. But I learned, over the years. And now I write books. And write newsletters and stuff like that and talk all over the place from autism. Just from the raw milk and raw carrot juice that led me in that direction. So, of course, recovering from that state, because I lived like a worm. After all the medical therapies, I did 3 months of chemotherapy. I had no hair. I had a few gray patches. And I was vomiting, defecating all over myself. I was in so much spinal pain that I couldn't even hold a pot up to urinate or defecate. So I would go around the room. They cleared out all the furniture, put plastic drapes up, like shower curtains, so they would hold the odor. And I would just crawl with my elbows different places of the house, of the living room, dining room area, which is pretty big, so I could just defecate and urinate as I went. And I was living by myself in a small house in Beverly Hills at the time. I was an idiot savant. I could write a program in 2 hours. It would take people 6 months to a year to write pretty flawlessly. So I was making a lot of money as an idiot. But the professors who discovered me, they always made sure I had somebody who could speak and write with me. So I'd write out the flowcharts, the programs, and everything. So I'd making like 80 grand as an idiot at 19 years old. So I had a small all wood floor house in Beverly Hills, a small 2-bedroom. So cleared out all the furniture and everything. So I just went around the room crawling, defecating, urinating all over myself for almost a year and a half. Sometimes, I'd relapse into it even up to 2.5 years and go through that. And then the volunteers from the hospice would come and clean up the house, clean me up, prepare my foods. For the first week, it was my donuts and RC Cola, my new cereals, I loved Sugar Crisp, and you add 4 tablespoons to that, along with the milk. I was like Hitler, I like lots of sugar. And that's the way I ate. So when this fellow turned me on to carrot juice and raw milk, it was an entirely different experience. They tasted it. Anybody here had chemo and radiation? You're lucky. Everything you eat after that tastes like postage stamp glue or cardboard. You eat cardboard in your life as a child. Pretty nasty taste. Anyway, that's what everything tasted like until Steve brought the carrot juice and the raw milk, and it tasted delicious. That's all I consumed. And it got me better every year. So, raw food, I just started predominantly facing toward raw food by February 72. That, when I was supposed to die, was 1968. So it took me all the way to 72 to get me into a state where I was okay in health, maybe 50% better, but still suffering from everything I ate because of the vagotomy and because I was still eating cooked foods. Had an incident with a girlfriend who was supposed to die from peritonitis. I fed her only raw foods during that process. She got well in 3 weeks, and was back to ballet class in 6 weeks. And they told her if she lived, that it would take her 1.5 years to get back to exercise and ballet class. And if they didn't follow her procedures for peritonitis, she would absolutely, definitely, without question, die. And she went with me out of the hospital, and I took care of her for that 3-week period for her recovery. and she recovered. So I said, that's it. I'm a raw fooder for life. February of 72. And I've not eaten probably 50 meals in that 4 years that had anything cooked in them. Sometimes sauce was put in a food when somebody said it was raw and it wasn't the real sauce. They got it from a bottle or a can. It was classified organic. Any of those foods all have toxins in them. They have to just pass inspection. And when you take a vitamin supplement and a mineral supplement, even the ones considered healthful and all from foods, they're all chemicals. They use a natural fractionator, a solvent, to separate the element that they're after out of that food. And what is that natural substance? Kerosene. How many of you would drink kerosene? Nobody. Yeah. So they use kerosene derivatives to fractionate these things, to isolate them and separate them. They etch into the thing that they're after. They break down everything. They etch and break apart everything. So you've got kerosene in every element you're eating. How many of you would soak a peach in kerosene for, let's say, 30 minutes, rinse it off for 15, 20 seconds, and eat it? And think you're not going to get kerosene that's worked its way into that food, to that peach. Try it sometime and see what happens. And if you don't die, you'll be very lucky. But in the minuscule amounts that are in these supplements, it's enough to do damage but not kill you. The high that you get from these supplements are toxic. It's a toxic process. What happens if you get poison in the body? Body rushes adrenaline. Why? Adrenaline is high in fat. It makes you exercise also to perspire. We get rid of 90% of our toxins through the skin. We're supposed to. When they get jammed in the lymphatic system, it doesn't happen. So then the body takes the intestinal tract and dumps there, causes a lot of damage to the intestinal walls and the intestinal bacteria. So, like taking an antibiotic. No matter what you do, you're destroying the body when you do anything other than truly natural. That means truly raw. Nothing over 105 degrees. Any food. So let me give you an idea. Well, I want to give you an idea. I'll show you the exact picture of what vitamin C looks like. Did you shut off? Oh, there you go. Okay. Ken, let's go ahead and do that there. I will bring it over here. Everybody see that okay? Everybody see that okay? Okay. On the right, there's a little soft, spongy vitamin C that come natural in your food.
Our left.
Pardon?
Our left.
Oh, your left, my right.
Okay.
Yes, your left. Okay? So, nice and spongy and soft. These are the same vitamin C molecules when processed and put into tablet or powder form. Turns it into glass. So what happens? You take that, you rip yourself apart when you do it. The body sends out adrenaline. So you get a high. You think it's healthy because you're getting a charge. But it's an adrenaline high. But it's a poison. I'll show you another one. Vitamin B1. Here's vitamin B1. On your left, soft, spongy type fragments. So you've got a little bit other than vitamin B1. You've got B6 here, a little bit larger molecules. So, but it's mainly vitamin B1, the smaller ones. But they're all soft and spongy and utilizable easily. Then you see what happens in the process. They're turned into rocks, like granite, from processing. Now, these companies, they think they're doing something good. They say, okay, you go to a laboratory and say, I want to make completely whole natural vitamin. I want it to be better than any other on the market. Can you do that? The lab, being very immoral people with very lack of conscience, want to make their money. So they say, certainly we can. They don't tell the person that we're going to use kerosene derivative to extract these. We're going to get it all from food, but where do they get that food? They don't grow it. They go to General Mills, Purina, get all their waste product from processing food. Then they take those and use the kerosene to derive those. There's one company that says we grow our own food. Only 5% of what they grow is that supplement. 95% is still from Purina, any of the big food companies. It is all a scam. It is not true vitamins and supplements. And when you fractionate any of those supplements, like vitamin C, totally cannot be used, and is always used in the body properly, with 5 varieties of bioflavonoids. You've got 4 varieties of vitamin C, all in one category. So when they say vitamin C, you're really getting 4 vitamins. They've done the work to separate B vitamins, except first they started with a B vitamin. Then it became B vitamin 1, 2, 3, niacin, all the way down to 6. And then you've got subgroups of vitamin Bs from there. So you've got all this chemistry garbage knowledge that bamboozles you into thinking that they've got the nutritional thing down. And you should trust them and buy and take this garbage. If you want a good example on the health field, David Wolf. Anybody know David Wolf? Nobody knows David Wolf? Big, raw foodie, superfood person. When he approached me 9 years ago, I said, David, you're just starting off in this raw food movement. You know, you can do your vegetarian, fruitarian thing, but you're not of the type that I've seen. I've only met 8 vegetarians who could be healthy on a vegetarian diet, and you don't fit it. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. After 7 years, I got a report from people who work for him. He's drinking raw milk now. I did the 7-year part. He hit them all 7 years. Almost happens to everybody. Most people cannot make it on a vegetarian diet, a pure vegetarian diet, because he followed more than 2.5, 3 years. That's it, majority. Then there are ones like him, like me. I lasted 6.5 years. He lasted a little bit more than 6.5 years, almost to the 7-year mark. He was drinking raw milk. Now you look at him from the year where he wasn't doing anything but the vegetarian stuff, and then you saw him the next year, full, white skin, not dark and wrinkled and dried out as he was getting. So he was drinking raw milk. And then I was at a potluck in San Diego about 7 months ago, and 2 people, a couple that worked for him, a young German couple that worked for him for almost a year, said, oh, he's eating raw meat now. He does not tell anybody he's drinking raw milk and he's eating raw meat. And yet that's where he's getting his health. I mean, that is very immoral. Because he'll lose his millions and millions of dollars a year. I think he makes something like $11 million a year selling his superfoods. You can't trust anybody. You have to make sure. I can't even trust farmers. I had a farmer last week that was supplying us with food. I own the animals, right to choose healthy food. When any club that's a part of the right to choose healthy food, we own the animals. I lease the animals from farmers, and I tell them how we want our food grown and our animals treated. So I found out, I tested the food. I do test them periodically in a laboratory, and this is coming in with arsenic. You can't get arsenic in eggs and chicken unless they're being fed a commercial feed or something that's had commercial antibiotics. And they use arsenic as a antibiotic or a insecticide to prevent insects from going in and like moths eating grain and stuff like that. So it was a small amount. I don't want any in my food, in my club's food for anybody who's in the club. And there are thousands of people in my clubs. So, and I don't take any money from it. I don't take a penny from any of it. And I called him and said, wait a minute, what are you feeding those chickens? Those chickens are supposed to be just getting meat, mostly rotten meat and bones and stuff like that. Chickens are vultures, they're scavengers, they're meat eaters. If you feed them grains, they'll have bad feathers, they'll peck on each other, they'll kill each other once in a while to get the meat. They'll try to survive on anything, but they are really meat eaters. And the Amish farmers that throw out entrails and all of that and crush the bone and put it on a pallet for the chickens, the flies come lay their maggots and the chickens get the meat, the maggots, and they're incredibly healthy. Have you ever seen chickens act like cats, kittens, and they'll come up and rub your leg? It's like that as you're walking along and they'll follow you. That's the way the chickens are raised from the eggs and chicken meat we eat. So this guy was giving his chickens a supplement of ground oyster shells and desiccated fish. And it had some arsenic in it. And I said, wait a minute. Our agreement was you only feed it fresh or rotten scraps of animals' meats. They have their grass to feed on. You know, if they want that, they have insects. And they have their dirt to eat, but their main diet is only that. What are you doing? Oysters are the only shellfish that can completely keep their bodies clean and put all their toxins in the shell. And you're giving oyster shells to make the shells thick to the chickens. I want thin shells. Chickens produce thin shells. You just have to pack them better so they don't break easily. And if they rot, that's okay with me. I eat rotten eggs. I get giddy and happy after eating them. Other people do too. So you can't trust anybody. If you really want good food, you have to know what it is about, what good foods are. And you have to make sure they're produced in that way for you. Anything you get from a store that isn't local, that you can follow up on, you're taking a risk on what is in that food. FDA has slaughtered the meaning of organic. Now you can have 15% chemicals in there and still call it organic. So I patented and copyrighted two names, Bioeco-Organic and Eco-Bioorganic, which now will be starting to be used on foods that are produced without any chemicals at all. So, and the FDA can't do a thing about it. The government can't do a thing about it. So you'll probably start seeing that around. Anybody that says they're beyond organic, that is the label they will have. Because you just can't use beyond organic. Beyond is too familiar and easy of a word. You can't patent it, even if it's connected with the word organic. So bioeco-organic will be the new food you get. And let me tell you, I watch over it like a hound dog. And I don't ask any money from anybody as a result. I live pretty meagerly, but I'm happy the way I am. And I do have been attacked by the government several times, not only physically, but in my living environment. But I don't care. Everybody's got to die sometime. So I am out for the battle of health and raw foods. And I'm going to do whatever I can to help. So anybody who can donate to Right to Choose Healthy Food, be great. Brandon's family financed me going to, and 5 other people, going to Washington, D.C., we lobbied for 3 months. Very expensive thing to do. Usually a lobbyist will charge you $100,000 a month. We did the entire thing on $69,000 for 6 of us. You know, we lobbied all 535 congresspersons. And we got Ron Paul to write the milk bill. And Sally Fallon's group our attorneys held it up for 5 months in rewriting 3 sentences that changed 2 words by the time it got finished but then there was the elections that year, so everything got squandered. There's a new bill out that Ron Paul has submitted again for raw milk. I think it's 1870, and I'll be sending out an email. Anybody wants to get on my email list, it's optimal@earthlink.net, OPTIMAL@earthlink.net, and I'll keep up on that, where to go to support that. Okay, so let's get back to the human body. Now, we have an endocrine gland system that is supposed to do what? Make us active, make us grow properly and everything? No. That happens naturally. Only when we have emergencies and ill conditions does our endocrine gland system kick in. It is for emergency purposes. If, let's say, there's a fire and all of the foods around are destroyed, and you're going to have to go be a nomad and go a gypsy and go many days or weeks or months to get to a good food source to be able to survive healthfully, what keeps your children growing during that period? Your pituitary starts secreting growth hormone. With our children on poison foods, that's what produces their growth hormone. Not bacteria, because they're destroyed by all the poisons in the body. So we're relying upon the pituitary to help our children grow under these contaminated circumstances. We have the pineal gland, which is about the size of a grain of rice, and is considered the seat of consciousness, but I never met anybody who's conscious enough to prove it to me. So don't know about that. The thyroid gland. Take a look at this amazing area. It's the only gland we have 5 backups. Thyroid, 2 parathyroids, 2 parathyroids. So it's 6 thyroid glands. What is so important to the human body that you need 5 backups? Your heart and your lungs. So all this crap in the pharmaceutical industry, it controls your weight, it controls your hair loss. What is the most important thing to women and some men? Overweight and hair loss. What is the quickest way to get people to take medication? Put them where their vanity fears are. Hair loss, weight gain. It's a thyroid problem. Take our thyroid medication. Nothing to do with that. The way you can discover what the thyroid is for, you take a football player who's just been hit by 5 guys, he's had the wind knocked out of him, his lungs and heart have stopped. The rush of thyroid into his system will be astronomical. And all of a sudden his heart and his lungs are back in 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes at the most. And he's up and back on the field again. That's the only time. If you fell out of a tree and you hit the ground and you knock the wind out of yourself and your heart stops beating, the thyroxine dumps into the system, your heart and your lungs go back. Unless you fracture your spine in the upper area and then there's no energy, you have to be up here that blocks this. Well, the thyroid from secreting. Then we go down to the thymus. Now, in the medical profession, the thymus says protects the lungs. Horseshit. It's the thyroid gland that does that. The thymus helps protect the stomach. And we have the gonads for reproduction. It's the only gland we have that's for sport, too, recreation. And we have the adrenal glands, and that's for fight or flight. Normally we have, if you take an animal who's healthy, They don't need adrenaline rushing around in themselves to have energy. They have fats they utilize as fuel. 80% of most energy that we have is generated from fat. 15% protein, 5% carbohydrate. So take a look at that. Fat is our greatest energy producer. Fat produces 2.5 times more energy than protein or carbohydrate. One proof of that, you look at the people who are in the highest contact sport and do the most slamming and dunking, wrestlers. Sure, it's all a show, but it's a hell of a show. They're gymnasts which slam each other terribly, can bruise the body terribly, and the stunts are phenomenal. You ever see a skinny one? They can't afford to be skinny. They would be dead. So the fat protects them and gives them the greatest amount of energy. Your bodybuilders, muscle, all muscle. Your weightlifters are not all muscle. They're mostly fat. You can't see a muscle defined on a weightlifter except when they're pressing, a tremendous amount of weight because they have so much fat there for the energy to lift. Schwarzenegger, when he was working out, he would eat tremendous amounts of fat, raw milk and all of that. Raw eggs, raw meat, common in Austria. And he would get really fat. And then 7 weeks before he would go on an exhibit, he would stop the fats. And he would go from lifting, let's say, 535 pounds down to lifting 440. That's a hell of a strength loss. If he continued on it beyond that 6 weeks, he would go down to 350 pound lift is all he could handle. Fat is the most important nutrient in the body for strength. It's also what the body utilizes to clean the system, to feed the whole body, to protect it. We have 60 varieties of cholesterol, a third to lubricate and protect the body, a third to utilize its energy, and a third to clean the system. And the lymphatic system is very engendered to do that. Our lymphatic system is responsible for cleaning every waste and toxin out of the body, sending most of it into the connective tissue to be perspired out of the skin. Now in males, if they're keeping up with discarding the toxins, there won't be anything between the skin and the muscles. If they don't, it's going to fill up. Women, it's different. They need a little bit more fat as protection. So they'll have a little bit more. You're thin, but yet we'll still find it. See that? She still has some good fats underneath. But that's about what she should have. Now, if she weren't thin, if she were fat, she should still have a small amount. If she were fat, may not have that amount. She may have a lot more under there, meaning her lymphatic system isn't really working. Now, the lymphatic system is so important because if those toxins are going to the intestines and going out that way, or going out the mucus in the membranes like in a flu or a cold, that's a strenuous way for them to leave the body. It does damage to the sinuses, the mucous membranes in the lungs, in the throat, in the sinuses, in the brain, in the ears, in the intestinal tract. Everywhere those toxins go out, leave the body, especially the caustic, they will cause harm to the body. So keeping that lymphatic system going is the biggest responsibility toward body caretaking after diet. So what is the lymphatic system? It's 60 to 80% fat. The lymphatic system actually was geared to do two things: feed every cell in the body and clean the body out. The bloodstream is just to give you energy. It's to take oxygen to the cells, remove carbon dioxide, the waste product, and the white blood cells are also there to eat dead red blood cells and dead white blood cells. They are cannibalistic in that they can eat themselves. They remove the waste from the blood, dump it into the lymphatic system, discard.
Does the lymphatic use the bloodstream though to distribute waste and bring nutrients, or
No.
does it use a different
The
system
body
of
does it.
transport?
The body does it. When the lymphatic system is jammed, our bodies will use the neurological fluid or the bloodstream to help pass poisons out and dump them into the intestines, when it's entirely the lymphatic's job. Now, if you live with natives like I do, they're busy and active 24 hours a day. They don't sit around sloshing around like gorillas. Gorillas only eat meat once a month. They'll eat about 20, they'll kill an antelope and eat about 13 pounds each. But they're very slovenly because they don't keep up with the meat diet. They're mostly vegetarians and fruitarians. They don't eat ripe fruit. They eat green bananas, peel and all. But they're very slovenly creatures. People who are on a raw meat diet stay energetic, except when they're sleeping. And when they wake, they've got the energy high. They don't rely upon anything other than the raw animal fats to produce their energy, and it's clean. They don't have all the toxins we have in the body. Now, the major thing that has jammed the lymphatic system in the human body are trans fatty acids, vegetable oils that have been hydrogenated. So the hydrogenating of vegetable oil turns it into the same molecular structure as plastic. So you have plastic fats. That's how plastic is made. You just take it longer on the hydrogenation process. So all of those vegetable oils, Crisco, all of them, no matter what they are toxic to the body. They will jam and congest the lymphatic system. Even vegetable oils in the human body are a problem, because if they are part of the cellular structure, they harden, they clump together, and they dry. Even fresh, raw, vegetable oils will do that. So if you have them plasticized at the same time, they're never going to leave the body unless you do one thing. You cook your body slowly for long periods of time to help melt them and get them out of the body. You do it between 103 and 108 degrees. And a good hot tub is best. Let me give you an example of what can happen if you're using heat to get the system clean. I've got a lot of very sick people who come to me that are in wheelchairs, unable to talk, unable to function, unable to move. They have to be fed, they have to be handled in all ways because they can't do anything themselves. I'll give you an example of one woman and one husband that did everything I said over a 3-year period. When she came to me, she was in a wheelchair, toes like this, hands like this, big knuckles everywhere. She had a hardball sized mineralization here. Elbows were all big, knees were about this big, and they said she had severe advanced arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and that she probably would die within a year. And she had been with him for 3 years and was just getting worse and worse. So she had heard some other people had been on the diet and got rid of their arthritis and rheumatism. They weren't bad as her, but she thought she would try it. So after a year on the diet, she returned taking some hot baths, maybe 2 a week, 90 minutes, about 105 degrees. She came back, her hands were out, she was able to touch and, work the, recording device, still had this knot here. Knees had shrunken by 50%. Next year she came, a little bit better. She was able to stand. She had to use a walker to walk, but she could actually be mobile on her own. With a walker. And not something else having to carry her. And she had stopped playing cards with her group of friends. She used to play cards with her. hands got so contorted she couldn't play cards anymore. And when she came to me, it had been 3 years since she played cards, been to the doctors for that 3 years. And she told her friends that she was going on this diet. Her friend said, that diet's going to kill you. It's a dangerous diet. Oh my God, everybody knows raw milk is dangerous. And raw meat, oh my God, you're going to get parasites, you're going to die. So they watched her over the years. I mean, they talked on the phone, we never seen her. And then last year, when she came back better, looking better every year, and I said, listen, I need you to do what I wanted you to do. I need her to take a bath at least 6 days a week, preferably 7 days a week, 90 minutes a day. Even 2 of them a day if you want. She'll be in here walking next year if you bring her, if you do this. Her husband was a good, strong guy. So he did it. He did it this year. She came in walking. She can walk 7 minutes. Her knees are in perfect shape. Her knuckles on her fingers are just slightly still raised. This went away in a year. Unheard of. A whole mineral deposit dissolving in a year. Usually takes 30 years of whole removal to get rid of them. People have them for life. So she's back to playing cards. What do her friends say now? You know, the diet, along with these baths, will be very important. Now, the diet's going to keep your blood, your neurological fluids, and some of your lymphatic fluids up to a high level. You're going to feel better. But with that jam in your body, you will have a slow progress to reversing any illnesses or ailments you have without getting that lymphatic system working to clean your system. And it works every time. Now, 2 years ago when the swine flu fiasco happened, I was in that February 2009, I was on an international radio show. I was invited there about raw milk, and somehow we got up into the swine flu. I was involved in the swine flu fiasco in 1976. I was 29 years old, and I was good friends with Ida Honoroff, a consumer advocate, who was syndicated in 3,200 stations. And Dr. McBean from San Diego. Those two brought forth a tremendous amount of evidence that the whole swine flu was a hoax. And because Ida Honoroff was syndicated, and most of the news networks were still owned by families that took some pride in their publishing, the media was on that like flies. So they watched people drop over dead within the first 2 and 6 weeks of receiving the swine flu vaccine. They were all documented. 2,300 people died within 6 weeks of receiving the vaccine because of the vaccine, because of anaphylactic shock and poisoning. Then when I went on the radio show, they were talking about the CDC counts 46 people died. So I told them where to go to get the proper information. I told them what books to seek. So I just blew it off the water. A famous rap group from the UK heard that. They took some of my information and put it in a rap song called Just Say No to the Vaccine. You can still hear it online. 7 minutes, 32 seconds long. And you hear my voice in there saying, the only way you can get swine flu is to get the vaccine. Period. So, and they've got me saying different things in it. And this rap group spent $1 million in creating this video. The number of cuts in there, you can see deaths, children getting injected, going crazy, arms being cut off by tribes that when the white people were brought in vaccines. And you just see all of these pictures and pictures and pictures. And when you finish with that, you're not going to go near that vaccine at all. So, between them and me, we destroyed it. Out of the 225 million vaccines they produced, only 6 million were sold and used. I got death threats for 5 weeks after that show. When I went over to the Philippines on the 7th week, I was subdued in my hotel room, and I woke half sitting up, cloth falling off my face, hypodermic in my arm, and on the bed next to me, 2 Caucasian guys on either side of me, just looked like, CIA brute types that were a little bit buffed. And they were startled. I was awake and half sitting up. And of course I got all the way to sitting by the time I was conscious. One grabbed the cloth, put it up over my face. I was out in a second and a half, or less. Ether takes me 13 seconds to go under. This was odorless and put me out in 1.5 seconds or less. So I woke in the morning thinking it was a bad dream. Turned over, sore, achy all over, sick, nauseous, starting to vomit. 3 bumps with puncture holes on each one. So I knew it had been reached. So I was on an island in the Philippines in a small town where the hospital was probably as big as this building and maybe 5 doctors to the whole hospital. So I didn't go to the hospital, of course, because they're all, they're even more primitive and more, they believe more in the medical profession than the medical profession believes in it here. So that was not an option going there. And then within 24 hours, I had huge sores that opened up and were just oozing and oozing. Not with white blood cells, some of them white blood cells, but most of them just serum. And within about 3 days, I kept passing out for 3 days. I couldn't drive. I had to have somebody drive me. I was passing out every hour, vomiting, diarrhea. And after the 3rd day, that was pretty much relieved because I knew that if I got some old shark or stingray that produced high ammonia, I could get that under control. So I had the driver take me to a dock, a wharf, and I was able to find a stingray. I let it out, in the sun and let the ammonia build up very quickly because it'll even advance twice as fast as shark will. And you have to be careful with the ammonia because it can kill you too. It's very highly toxic. But it can bind with these poisons that were floating around in my system and help get rid of them. So I went with that semi-dangerous route, and it got me out of the worst of it. However, I had scars. It looks like I had shrapnel from, a grenade blast, and most of it went into my legs and feet. So all of this were open sores all over, oozing and oozing and oozing for 4.5 months. So every April, for the past 2 years, or for the past 2 Aprils since that event, I go through a detox of that same stuff. I start getting those blisters all over the place, but mostly on the legs. This time, these 2 right here turned into cancerous. It just stopped about a week ago. And the tumor got to be as big as my hand on there. Now I was either going to lose the foot or take care of it another way. So I happened to be in the Philippines and Thailand at the time I started going through the detox again. So I didn't have a hot tub, I didn't have baths easily accessible, lots of lakes and streams, but they're not hot. So I checked into a hotel and I bought a water, pot. It was electrical water heaters. And I poured it into a garbage can and soaked my foot up to 5 hours in there, kept heating the water so it would cool down. Within 4 days, the tumor just reached. And it kept coming and going, coming and going. So I would put it into the hot water maybe an hour and a half. The tumor would go away in a matter of a day. And it would take, 5 days, 10 days for it to grow. So Heat can reverse anything as long as the lymphatic system is working and you have a way to clear it out of the body. Most of it gets stuck under the skin, just like it did here. And then the lymph system isn't working as well. It can't do it because it's blocked, and the heat is the best escape. Never use ice on an injury. Never use ice on an injury. Why? If you have an injury or an ache and pain somewhere, you have swelling there to do what? To increase circulation to the area, to provide an enormous amount of nutrients, to remove the toxicity, and to heal. You pack ice on that, you clot it. What are you going to have? Scar tissue. Look at all these athletes. Pack it with ice so they can get back in the game. Shoot with hormones and go out there and play again. And then they're having 5 and 6 operations within 3 years. Because the scar tissue builds up. So always use heat on an area. Always. If you've got a bleed somewhere, wait till the bleeding stops. Drink some green cabbage juice. Half to a whole cup, your bleeding will stop like that. And then you put the heat on it. Take care of it. Always utilize heat. If you need more nutrients into the area to cleanse and heal. Plus, the heat helps you remove the waste toxins out to the skin, where 90% of toxins are supposed to be relieved out the skin. Now, usually I do a workshop 6 hours. We've cut this down to a 2-hour workshop. So, I'm just going to leave that information with you. That's the most pertinent information. If you want to know about the diet and how to do it, there's 2 books there. This book has 230 pages of remedies, all raw food remedies. I've mentioned salt only one time, and one for people who can't get out of the bed, who have severe adrenal exhaustion, not diagnosed by anybody. But if you can't get out of the bed, you have real adrenal exhaustion. A lot of New Age alternative doctors will say, oh, you've got adrenal fatigue. You know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay, if you have adrenal fatigue, you're not going to get out of a chair, you're not going to get off the bed, you're not going to be able to move. Okay? That's the only time I ever suggest salt. Salt is an explosive. It's more volatile than nitroglycerin. My father was one of the inventors that was put on the project by General Electric that was paid $2 billion by NSA military to make it an explosive to be utilized as a weapon. It is so volatile that a 1.5 degree temperature change of pure crystallized sodium will set it off. A pure crystallized clump of sodium the size of a football will take out New York City and all of its buildings. One little bottle. They can't control it, so they don't utilize it. You want to see what happens to it in the body? Go online and look up frog legs, salt, YouTube. Put that in the search engine, you're going to come up with these 3 guys that are mocking me, talking about salt. Well, I told them about the salt being explosive and how it will cause spasms internally in the body. And I said, probably do it to a dead person. So they take 3 frog legs, 3 sets of frogs that are skinned and dead from here down. And they salt them on each side lightly. They don't pour the salt on them, they just shake it on each leg like that. And you watch it goes into spasms. They only showed the spasms for 2 minutes, but it went on for 20 minutes. These are dead frog legs. And the salt is causing these spasms. It is an explosive. So when it goes into the body, into the blood, what happens? Each cell, when it eats, has a smorgasbord of nutrients. It's anywhere from 93 to 117 nutrients. Proteins, vitamins, enzymes, carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Absolutely every nutrient is there for every cell to eat. And it will open and then draw those nutrients in, and it eats and it's satisfied. When salt is in your food, even, I don't care if it's sea salt, Celtic salt, whatever salt it is rock. We do not digest rock. It is an explosive. We will fractionate that and isolate most of the sodium ions that will become explosive. When sodium is in food, the other nutrients that naturally bond with them never leave the sodium. It's all together. Sodium is the tiniest mineral we have. So, and also the most powerful, most toxic of them if it is isolated and in rock form. So, what it does, it causes these explosions. So this smorgasbord becomes maybe 26 nutrients, or 53 nutrients, or 70 nutrients, which is less than half of what their normal balanced diet constitutes. So all the cells are completely starved. They're deficient in their balanced diet. Salt is the number one no-no next to cooking. I also don't agree with drinking a lot of water. Water is a solvent. No nutrient value in water. The minerals that I have in it are rock form. We don't digest rock form. Plants do. The brains dissolves rock, plants eat. We don't function like that. We drink water, we dilute the mucus that lines and protects the mucous membranes. We dilute our digested acids and destroy and dilute the intestinal bacteria. So water is a no-no in its pure water form, in bottled form. But if you're eating raw foods, everything contains predominantly water, except for meat. Meat is 55% water, though. That's a lot of water. Milk, 86 to 90% water, depending on what the cow eats. Fruit is about 92, 93% water. Every bit of that water can be utilized 100%. If you're taking water in just water form, it will dry out your system. What happens if you just take water and you keep putting water on your skin? It's going to dry it out and crack. You're going to remove all the fats that make it supple and strong. Same thing happens in the body. Now, I'm not saying don't drink any water, but you minimize it like a tablespoon at a time. Drink a half a cup a day. If you're an athlete, cup and a half a day, but only in sips. You need solvents. You're full of poisons. You need to remove them. But you can drink 2 quarts of milk a day like I do. That's almost 2 quarts of water. And I eat my fruit meal, which is 93% water. Everything I eat is full of good, 100% utilizable water. In food form, where it carries nutrients with the water, or the nutrients carry the H2O with it. Who knows which it is? Either way, that's what happens. So you utilize. I have champion kung fu masters and tennis players that don't drink water. They drink my sport drink. If you want to know what the sport drink is, it's 3 cups of one of these, each of these. Watermelon, tomato, cucumber, or whey. Now you can use any combination of those. The watermelon, the cucumber, and the tomato should always be pureed and not juiced. So you have the pulp with it. You've got a lot of collagen precursors in those foods. They're high in sodium, each one of them, especially watermelon and tomatoes. So they can give you the sodium you need to properly remove all toxic sodium and keep the body strong. You also put in that a tablespoon to a table if you're sick or a big person, then you use 1.5 tablespoons of vinegar, raw and pasteurized apple cider vinegar. 1 tablespoon of lime juice, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of raw cream, 2 tablespoons of honey, 2 tablespoons of coconut cream if you have it, 3 raw eggs. That is an incredible sport drink. I had last year, 2009, I had the 2 number 1 tennis champion, high school tennis champions, male and female. They went on the diet at 8, 9 years old. The male at 8 years old, the female at 9 years old. Doing the diet almost 100%. Neither one of them, the boy, was an asthmatic. Couldn't even drink pasteurized milk. He got into the raw milk. His whole life changed. Raw diet. He became a champion tennis player. From an asthmatic kid that lived all the time to a guy that can just stand there with endurance and just take on anybody. So his name was Walker Kieran. And the girl's name was Valerie Mysick. So they would drink 1 quart, that makes 1 quart of the sport drink during 5 hours of tennis play. Their opponents were sucking down a gallon to a gallon and a half of water and getting weak because they were diluting their bodies. My champions were just there, go, go, go. Had a man 61 years old, well, he was 58 when he came to me, was a champion competitor in martial arts. His exercise was jumping rope 3 days a week, where he would jump 3,600 jumps one day. 2 days after that, he would do 7,200 jumps. And on a Friday or Saturday, he would do 12,000 jumps in an hour. So when he went on the diet, his heart rate, he kept for several years, kept his heart rate and graphed it. When he would finish his workout, jump rope, I mean, he did other sports, but that's what he did. That was his training 3 days of the week. He did lots of other training other days of the week. His heart rate averaged, after 3-4 minutes after he finished exercising, doing the jump ropes, his heart rate averaged about 181 and going higher every month, 1 or 2 beats. And when he went on the diet, every month after that it started going down 10 points. So at the end of the year, 3 months after his jump roping, 12,000 jumps, his heart rate was 110 in 3 minutes. He went from 35th place to 5th place in his category. And in his category, everybody was 15 years younger than he was. And he's kept that, and everybody's 15 years younger that beats him, 10, 15 years younger that beat him. In the last competition, he went against even the classification under him, and he was wiping out kids 25 years younger than he is. So this diet isn't just for people who are sick. This diet is for anybody who wants to be vibrantly healthy and do exceptional things in their lives. Okay. All right, I'm going to take questions and answers. Yes?
So would you say there's more of a connection with the, or I'm asking, would you say there is more of a connection with the adrenal than there is adrenal thyroid? Or?
Again, those glands are for emergency purposes. The body will produce, because the body's majorly toxic. Hormones consist of 60 to 80% fats. The body uses predominantly fats to clean the body. About 15% proteins, but 68% fats. The proteins and fats in hormones are in the exact ratio of being able to detoxify the body. So just like when you get poison, adrenaline rushes to try to chelate and bind to the poisons. as well as get you to exercise, to perspire the toxins out of your body, and raising body temperature so you perspire. The body can use any hormones in the body for that purpose. Female, male, doesn't matter. Pituitary does not matter. That ratio is consistent with all hormones. So your body will produce them for detoxification. So it depends upon the individual, whether it might be predominantly the thyroid gland or the adrenal gland. Could be the thymus, could be the pituitary, could be the gonads. You know, there are many responses and everybody's different. And one person may react differently in 6 months than they would, 6 months prior to that event.
But if you have an adrenal problem, what would you say is the
99% of the time that I've seen people say they have an adrenal problem, there's not an adrenal problem. So, you have to get rid. People have an industrial toxicity problem. That is always your problem. Removing that is the key. Strengthening your body first may be the first key. If you're weak, if you're not strong, if you have a lot of fatigue, chronic fatigue, or fibromyalgia, pains all over the body, you need to take the baths and you need to eat properly. Don't go into detoxifications. Don't use my detoxification juice. It's in my recipe book. To clean the system, you need to get strong first. You need to eat the good foods first. So we don't have time to go into all that, which I normally do. So maybe next year we'll be able to set up a longer workshop. Or you can get my DVD of my 5-hour lecture at UCLA. It's only 167, 69, whatever it is. And you can watch it as many times as you like. And it gives you all of the information you've already heard, plus 3 hours more. I go into foods, what they do, how to work with certain elements. Now, getting the body well involves the intestinal tract predominantly, digesting your foods. So, if you have a lot of health problems that are severe, you don't want to tax the body with digestion. The most easily digested foods are those two predominate in your diet. And that is raw eggs first, unrefrigerated. You need the bacteria to digest it. And everybody says, oh, you're going to get salmonella poisoning. Good. Because it's not a poisoning. The salmonella will go in there and help you clean dead tissue out of the body. You have almost 700 varieties of salmonella on your skin. Before we started taking showers and baths, we had 1,200 varieties of salmonella. They ate the dead cells, the dead skin cells. We have about 200 varieties, almost 200, 160 something, in our noses that eat the dead cells from the sinuses. We have it on our rectum. We have a variety of like 200, 300 to 240 something on our rectum. Just inside too. In our ears we have another 90 some varieties of salmonella. Salmonella are there as janitors. If they're on an egg, fine. Most of the people who get diarrhea and vomit are just getting rid of industrial poisons. It doesn't have anything to do with the salmonella, yet because they're eating raw eggs all of a sudden, if they get diarrhea or vomit, they're going to blame it on the salmonella in the eggs. It's absurd. If you have the urine and vomit tested in a laboratory, not for bacteria, but for contamination, for chemicals and toxins like your 30 poison minerals, arsenic, lead, thimerosal, mercury, all of those, thallium, mercury, all of those, you're going to find what's involved when you're really detoxing. It won't be salmonella. You might find a little bit, but predominantly you're going to find the poisons. In one case, a woman who was 36 years old came to me with breast cancer. And I tell everybody who comes to me with cancer, you have to get 20, 25 pounds overweight. You need that fat to protect you. Those poisons are going to start dumping. Anybody who has cancer has very severe accumulation of industrial poisons in their body. Otherwise, they wouldn't have such cellular destruction in the body. Cancer is nothing other than the body's inability to dissolve and discard dead cells. So it collects them first as thyroids, evenly all over, and then we'll build them into tumors. We can arrest functionality. Cancer is the body's cells being majorly destroyed over a long period of time with industrial chemicals. So the body's collecting all these dead cells. The lymph system is not working to break down those cells, to dissolve them, get them out of the skin or out the bowels or the stomach with vomit, some way to get rid of them. Or the liver is not making bile properly to digest the fats that the lymphatic system needs to break those fats down, to dissolve them. Those cells down to dissolve them. So cancer is a very simple process. Not a short one and not an easy one, unless you're doing the hot baths. If you're advanced and you've got problems, it takes years to recover from cancer. It took me 11 and a half years to recover from my 4 cancers. But here I am today. I was supposed to die 43 years ago. I'm working on my 65th year, and I'm pretty healthy. And even for being assaulted 2 years ago, 2 years and 5 months ago, with those injections, I could have died from that too. But I'm here talking to you today, getting rid of tumors that can get the size of a hand in 5 days, because I know how to do it. I know how to deal with it. If I were here, I could just deal with it every time they come up. Just get rid of them instantly, or just soak every day so they don't build up in my system. Get that lymphatic system going. Everybody has to concentrate on heat. Hot tubs are the best because you have a steady temperature, about 105 degrees. Stay in there 90 minutes a day.
As long as there's that chlorine in there.
Well, you put ingredients in there, but if you have your own hot tub, you put 3 filters on it before it gets into the hot tub. The first one should be just the opposite of what a plumber will tell you. You put the paper filter first. They have the paper filter first. You get a new canister, it's about this big. And because all paper uses a lot of industrial poisons to make paper, you're going to have a lot of poisons that get into that water after they pulled out other kinds of industrial toxins. Then you have another canister filter that is coconut shell carbon. Carbon from coconut shells. Then the last one that the water passes through should be a big sand filter. Now in my hot tub, I only use a 300-pound sand filter that belongs on a swimming pool, a large swimming pool, rather than a small hot tub. Keeps that water crystal clear, but it allows the algae to grow in there. And algae helps pull metals out of your body. So algae is a good thing. So every 3 months, I scrape the rug of algae out and feed it to my plants. And they grow twice as big, flowers twice as big. So it's a good way to recycle things. So that is the way you can adjust to, the chemicals and pollution that's in your water. If you're just using a bathtub, you fill the bathtub halfway with scalding water. You let it sit there for 10 minutes to heat the bathtub so the bathtub doesn't bring the water down, heat temperature down quickly. Then you fill the rest of the tub after 10 minutes with lukewarm water so the temperature is about 110 degrees. Then you put a cup of milk in, 2 to 3 tablespoons of raw apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of sea salt or Epsom salt, and you let that sit in. And if you're going to be in there a long time, to help the skin a little better, a couple of tablespoons of coconut cream. And then you let that sit in there for 7 minutes. You get in the bath. It's going to be about 108 degrees, an hour 107. And you sit in there and start soaking. After 20 minutes, the temperature is going to drop below 102 degrees, and you need to reheat the water. You let about 2 inches out. When you get to that second 2 inches, you turn on the hot water only, and you run the cold water coming out of the spout right down into the drain. Try to funnel it so the cold water doesn't lower the temperature of the rest of the bath. Then when it gets scalding, about the time, well, if your heater's right next to the tub, it's going to be quick, so then you'll wait till maybe a ½ inch. But depending on how long it takes for the water to heat, you need 2 inches out, so then you put the plug in when the water's scalding hot again, and you swirl it around. You don't have to put more ingredients in it. I've tested it, over 23 times, and those nutrients take care of the toxins in that new water that's coming in to the bath. So you have to do that every 20 minutes. So if you're in there 90 minutes, you're going to have to do that 3 times. If you're in there an hour, you're going to have to do it 2 times.
In that scenario, what does the apple cider vinegar do with the water? And if you add too much, will it kind of...
Too much is okay.
Okay.
It just be pickled.
And then how about, same question for the Epsom salts. What does that do and
Well,
too much
all of
bad?
those things that are in there are not necessarily for your body. They are to control the contamination. All the chemicals are in water, municipal water. Like in LA, we have 196 chemicals in that water. Here, it's a lot less because then they're just adding certain amounts of poisons into the water to purify it, of microbes. They put poisons in your water to kill the microbes. The microbes is what we want. So those ingredients will help neutralize those poisons. Or not help, they will neutralize.
What if you're just using well water? What would you put in the bath?
Nothing. No, you
Just coconut?
well, you put coconut in there so your skin doesn't dry. If you have heavy minerals, then you'll want to run it through the sand filter so, your faucets and drains don't cake all up. And it'll still allow the algae to grow. Yes.
So what was the second food? You said the 2 best foods. You said the raw eggs.
Oh,
and then
well, you have milk. Is the next. Now, an egg will digest in 27 minutes. It's already liquid. All the protein, all the fats are already liquid. There is no food that is more complete than an egg. Egg has all the proteins, including B12. It has every vitamin, including all the B complex, everything in the egg yolk. For all the different vitamin A's, the different vitamin E, everything is in the egg yolk and vitamin capacity, proteins in the egg white. The only thing that the egg can't do is increase cellular division. And raw meats do that. So you can eat an egg, and I take people who were skinny and feeble and dying, and within 3-4 weeks, they're back. Just by eating 12, 20 eggs a day, sometimes 30 eggs a day. And that's basically their diet, maybe with a little honey and butter in between. And they'll eat like an egg every 20 to 30 minutes all day long in their waking hour. And they'll recover it like that. In the recipe book, I talk about the doctor who called me at 9 o'clock my time. She was on the East Coast. Must have been 1:30 in the morning, her time, obviously a medical doctor that was more conscientious. She said, I have an emphysemic patient who was diagnosed 7 years ago. She's mainly been on machines for the past 2 years and bedridden. She's going to die this weekend. This is on Thursday night. She's going to die this weekend. What can I do? And I said, well, you're calling me a little late, aren't you? And she says, well, I'm a medical doctor, and we have the restriction that we can't suggest any alternatives until they've been on the medical treatments for 10 years with failure. So that means when you go to a doctor, they can't give you anything healthy, only what's regulated by the AMA, and that's the pharmaceutical industry. They can never give you anything natural until you failed for 10 years with their medication. So you're doomed for 10 years if you go to them. It's the most absurd thing in the world to go to a doctor for anything unless you've been in an accident where your arms ripped off and you need to put it back on. That's the only reason. They're good mechanics. And that's it. So I said, well, the only thing I can suggest at this point is you get her 10 to 15 dozen eggs and have her eat one as often as she can, and there's no limit. So, you know, it was her Friday morning when she called me about 1:30 in the morning, and I'm sure she didn't get the eggs until late that Friday because she has her practice. So the woman probably got the eggs at the earliest Saturday, if at all. Monday morning I get a call from this raspy voiced woman. She says, "It worked. I'm out of bed. What do I do now?" I said, "Who are you?" And she said, "Well, my doctor called you and you told her to tell me to eat as many raw eggs as I can." So I did that on Saturday and Sunday. This is Monday. I'm off the machines and I'm out of bed. What else should I do? I said, "Well, how many did you eat?" She said, "Well, I ate 33 on Saturday and 33 on Sunday. And I'm out of the bed and I'm off the machines." I said, "Keep eating them. Keep eating 30 a day. You're not out of the woods. You're just on your way to a quick recovery." You know, so I told her, you know, about 6 more weeks, 3 months, add raw meat and raw milk to your diet. If you're in that kind of an ill state where you're prepared for death, only thing you should be eating is eggs, raw eggs, honey and butter to rebound quickly. And then you add raw milk. Raw milk still takes 6 to 10 hours to digest. Meat takes 19 to 24. Wow. So you won't get real strong quickly. I mean, you won't add cells, excessive cells to your body, not excessive, but you won't generate quick division, cellular division, unless you're eating raw meats. Now, when I speak of raw meats, I'm talking about any flesh food, whether it's fish, shellfish, seafood of any kind, four-legged animals, red meat, no matter what it is.
Pork is
All of
okay
that's
too?
meat. Pardon?
Pork is okay too?
Pork is wonderful. Just how the pig is raised. In fact, that's one of the most delicious I've ever eaten was pork in China, in southern China, near Ishbana. It's right near the Thai and Laos border. And they have these black pigs that they raise that used to be wild. Oh my God. The fat, I just ate 3 pounds in one second. And then ate some meat. And the next day I ate half and half, you know. I couldn't stop. I stayed in that town just to eat it. I was supposed to leave the next day. And when I had that pork, I stayed for 5 days just to eat that pork. I will one day go over there and import those pigs to wherever my farms are. So, I love those pigs. So pork is wonderful. It all depends on how you feed them. Feed any animal. So pork is wonderful. Yes?
Just when we're having a real thirst intensely, it just sort of hit me that, is it really we're craving and eating the fats?
It's mostly fats. It's not fluids that you're needing. If you're an athlete, you're definitely going to need more water. That's why I say 1.5 cups of water. I mean, if you're a bigger guy like this, maybe 2.5 cups a day of water. But it mainly should be sports formula and milk to get your nutrients, to get your water properly bound in nutrients.
And green veggie juice.
Pardon?
And veggie juice.
Oh, and veggie juice, yes. But that's all in the books.
Another question about milk. If you're lactose intolerant?
I've never met anyone lactose intolerant to raw milk, except when they initially take it. And 99% of those people aren't even allergic to it. They're allergic to pasteurized and cooked milks. But that 1% that have been, they just drink 2 ounces a day for 3 months, and it's not really the lactate or the casein in the raw milk that's the issue. They start cleaning out the old toxic lactate and casein from dairy products, cooked dairy products that they've had in foods over the years. And it's in a lot of foods. Cooked egg products are in a lot of pre-prepared foods. You know,
So when you're
pastas and all that.
So when you're having an allergy or sensitivity to milk, to raw milk,
It's not
because
really
it's
raw milk.
drawing out the old cooked
Exactly.
milk that's in your body.
Precisely. And usually, if you had only 2 ounces a day, it would take 3 months to do it at the most. If you take a half a cup a day and have a little bit of discomfort, get rid of it in 6 weeks. So all depends on how fast you want to go. Maybe you can handle that little bit of discomfort as you're dumping the old toxic stuff on the body. But it isn't water, yes, it's mainly other nutrients and fat predominantly. And if anybody has a lot of cravings, they need a lot of cream. Once they stop the cravings, they can drop down to butter. Butter is more digestible and easily digestible. Still a little bit of cream, but mainly butter. Butter is easy to digest. Cream is difficult to digest. It takes all 60 varieties of bile to break down the 60 varieties of fats in cream. When the body has butter, a third of those cholesterols have already been broken down and utilized. So the liver only has to produce 2/3 of the bile to digest raw butter. And raw butter is much more utilizable in every area of the body than raw cream. The raw cream fat is the only one that will feed the brain and the nervous system completely. Yes?
So like flax oil, is that considered a vegetable oil?
It is a vegetable type oil.
So
It will harden in your
it
system.
really
if it's
isn't
made
that
right.
good.
It's good as, let's say you take a tablespoon a day as a medicine to help dissolve toxicity in your body. Let's say you have a lot of dead cells. Olive oil and flax oil, as long as it's purely raw. And most of them aren't. It will help dissolve dead cells in the body. Your body can make a solvent with it, just like we make solvents with petroleum products. Oil. They just dissolve. Grease and stuff.
Is fish oil then like better?
Fish oils, those are fine, but when I've done experiments with fish oil and I help them figure out the way to produce green pastures, cod liver oil, even with my experiments with people who've been on the primal diet for at least a year and a half, it doesn't add anything to it. People on a cooked diet, it's very good for them. And you have to get the cod liver oil that has no ester oils added to it to make it flavorful. Cod liver oil is stinky, foul, and doesn't taste good when it is a good product. But most people won't eat it that way. Yes.
So raw meats, is it really just as simple as you want us to start eating raw meats, just chicken breast, raw,
Yeah.
steak?
Well, you can take it. I've got ways to marinate. I've got 82 sauces in the recipe book that can be made 3 to 5 different ways each. So that's 400 sauces. And they make meats taste better, and they're so easily digestible. Digest so easily.
What portion size do you recommend?
It depends upon the person, but I recommend that most people, average size, eat a pound of meat a day, half a pound at a time. If you're a diabetic or you have sugar problems, then 3 times. Break that 1 pound up into 3 times a day.
Your new DVD is the easiest way to get into this. I've been kind of working with the diet for over a year, but I got your new DVD and watched you actually make this stuff, and it makes so much more sense, and I see the portion size.
Yeah.
So not to sell your products for you, but I'd recommend that to anyone, yeah, because it makes it easy to see what to do.
I just produced a new DVD, which is 2 hours and 14 minutes of me juicing and making foods, different meat dishes with sauces. So there are 10 different recipes there, and I take you through every stage, and it's so easy and so quick, isn't it?
Yeah, so easy.
And I show you how to make juicing vegetables easy and quicker. You're cutting about 1/3 of the time off. Coconut cream, I take you through that, show you how to do that if somebody isn't around to make it for you, or buy it somewhere. And there's no way you can buy it in a market or to sell anywhere online. It has to be somebody who produces it under my instructions. There are only 3 places in the United States, and only 2 will make it send it to you.
When you start this diet, should we just ease into it, 1 egg a day, and just get a meat?
Did you ease into it?
I was very eye of the tiger and
Yeah.
immediately started 100%.
Those people who do it immediately have the best results.
Yeah. And how do you do it on washing fruits and veggies? That's essentially when you wash them?
I always wash everything. I don't trust anybody, even if it says organic. I will take water and I'll put, I'll use a quart of water to clean my fruits. Let's say I've got berries. That's mostly what I use. Berries are low in sugar and help pull a lot of toxic metals out of the body. So I will take, let's say, a combination of raspberries and blueberries and strawberries. I'll put them in a quart jar with water and 1 or 2 tablespoons of milk. And I let them soak in there for about 20 minutes, and then I do a vibrating, shaking thing like jewelers cleaning do the vibrating. Get that stuff to fall off. And I'll do that for a minute, shake it for about a minute, and then I'll dump the water off. And I save that water because I'll use it for about 3 days to clean my fruits.
And the milk absorbs the toxins.
Yeah, milk absorbs the toxins. Also, if I'm doing vegetables, I'll put have a larger pot, and I'll put the vinegar, the same thing I put, except I don't use salt or Epsom salt. In that water, I'll put the vinegar, the milk, and a little bit of coconut cream, not just maybe half a teaspoon of coconut cream. And then I soak the vegetables for about 20 minutes, and then I take a vegetable brush and lightly go over them, and then shake them off in the juice.
So drinking milk, that absorbs toxins?
Yes, definitely. When the American Indians ever got bit by something that gave a venom, they would seek out a lactating animal, and they would drink the milk. And then it would draw the poisons to the stomach, and then the hydrochloric acid could neutralize it. Nothing neutralized. You don't have to go to, a hospital to get some antidote. You just make sure your hydrochloric acid is producing, in your stomach, and you take clay or something to draw the poisons into the stomach, and that'll neutralize the venom, and you won't die. I've been bitten by tarantulas, black widows, several rattlesnakes, because I eat them. I've eaten all of them when I was desperate in the desert and had nothing else to eat. And I've never died from any of it. But when I was in the desert, I ate clay, dirt, to pull it to my stomach and neutralize the poison. And milk does it pretty quickly too. Or you can just vomit it. Once the milk goes in there, you can feel it, you get a little nauseous. You can vomit the poisons out. Well, I was going back to that woman who had that cancer, I forgot to finish the story, who had the cancer of the breast, 36 years old. And I told her to gain, 20, 25 pounds extra weight. She got up to 15 pounds overweight and looked probably still thinner than you, but that's the way I like people with good strength to the body and protection. So you're perfect size, you're very good, you're a little thin yet, you're very thin, you're very, very thin, you're close, you're very good, you're rather thin, you're pretty good, and you're very good, you're very thin, you're excellent, you're very good, you're very good, you're very thin, and you're very good. I like that is protection. Okay. So this woman only gained 15 pounds. And the reason I say that all of my cancer clients have to get excessively overweight is for that protection, because once the cells start dissolving, the dead cells start dissolving, there's a massive amount of byproduct poisons that are left over, and you better have the fat there to bind with them, or it will start tearing your body apart. And comes a time when a person's on this diet and getting through cancer, right before they stop, when they start getting rid of all their tumor, they'll have vomit. And that can last, I've seen, up to 6 weeks. Vomiting sometimes 11 times a day, getting rid of all those poisons, all those dead cells that were killed by those poisons, all those byproducts, because they weren't going out the skin very well. This is before I learned about, perspiring and how much you could get rid of if you could just get them out the skin. So you don't have to do it all at one time to your intestines or your stomach and out the esophagus and the mouth for the vomit. So she had been going 8 weeks in this vomit spell. She was getting down too thin. And this is the point where the body doesn't have any nutrients. It's already starved. It's impossible to eat because of the violent vomits. And, it's the point where I lose people. I've only lost. Only people that I lose to cancer are those people that when they go through that state, they don't have enough to get them through, enough weight. So at 8 weeks, I said, I need to know what, because she was getting worse, a little bit worse, faster than most of my cancer patients. So I had 4 ounces of her vomit tested. Sent it to the lab in St. Louis, Premier Labs, and ordered a $8,200, test on her for everything. So 3 days later, we get a call from the general manager of the laboratory saying, somebody's poisoning your patient. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, that patient has 3,000 times the lethal dose of thimerosal in that vomit. And I said, no. He said, we have to tell that because a lot of women use that on their spouses. They feed them a little bit of rat poison, which is mainly thimerosal. Thallium, the toxic mineral thallium, which is almost identical to lead. It's not as soft as lead, but close, and it's almost as toxic as lead. So they give that to their husbands to get rid of them slowly. So it's a known thing. Almost 50% of the women who killed their husbands with rat poison had this high thallium. And I said, well, this is not a woman. This is not a woman poisoning her husband. This is a husband with his wife. And they've only been married for 5 years and they're deeply in love. So that's not the situation. I said, what the situation is, she was a metallurgist. She made silver jewelry. And she did it over Bunsenburner without ever wearing a mask and without ever wearing gloves. So she had intense amounts of thallium and mercury in her lungs. And of course, it went to the lymph system to detoxify. So that's why she had breast cancer. All the contamination in this area. So 3,000 times the lethal dose of thallium in 4 ounces of vomit. See how miraculous the body is? You can't get rid of 3,000, times the lethal dose coming out of my skin would create something like this. That kind of a scar coming out there. And this oozed for 4 months. It was open tissue. The muscles were just peeling away, and just like flakes.
What did they give you? Do you know what they injected?
Pardon?
Do you know what they injected into you?
I assume it was, the flu vaccine. They probably wanted me to drop dead. They'd say, he died of flu vaccine. Died of swine flu.
Mm-hmm.
Probably what they were intended.
Swine flu, yeah. Giving you the vaccine.
But I was not in a laboratory, and there was no laboratory in the Philippines for me to be able to do it. And they wouldn't allow me to send any biological product in the mail, unless I was a doctor, medical doctor.
How do you feel about spoiled foods? You said you love eating rotten things.
It doesn't taste delicious unless you've done it a lot. Then it tastes delicious. If you do it frequently, that stuff starts smelling good and tasting good. But it works. It's all pre-digested. Just like kefir and yogurt, you pre-digest it with bacteria.
So mold, go ahead and eat it.
Pardon?
Mold, go ahead and eat it.
Absolutely. What you might do, like it has spores, little mushrooms, and it can cause a lot to become activated in your body. You don't want that. You want the pre-digested, the mold that's digested the food. So you just scrape the outside, the white fuzz on the outside, because those are the little mushrooms, little spores. And then eat it. Yeah. Just like the Turks, they'll put the gangrene on the meat and let it eat in, and then scrape off the outside, the fungus on the outside, the spores, the mushroom.
Aajonus, can you share the research on the irritable bowel syndrome, or the 5 or 10 people that went through that process with trichinosis?
Yeah, I can talk about that. About 29 years ago, a gastroenterologist named Joel Weinstock at Iowa University, a full professor, been through a lot of years of all the medical garbage, and there was nothing that alleviated anything the medical profession had to offer for inflammatory bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease. So, just on a whim, he got an idea. He saw the pigs at the university, sterile environment, supposed to be as healthy can be, sick as sick can be. Yet, out on the farm, because he was raised on a farm, out on the farm, you know, his parents had pigs that were wandering around in mud, eat their feces and urine, get their slop in and eat all that together, thriving and healthy and happy. So, you know, being a gastroenterologist, he wanted to look at the difference in the gastrointestinal environments and constitution. And he found that the pigs at the farm, and all the slop, had trichinosis, the whipworm. And they were digestive, they facilitated digestion in the intestinal tract, in the small intestine. So he decided to take the whipworms and spike the pigs at the university. They were well and happy and strong in 5 days in digesting their foods. So he went to the FDA and said, listen, here's what happened with the pigs. I want to have an experiment with 6 patients, human patients. And they gave him a license and they said, but you can only do it to patients who have failed for 10 years or more on medical therapies. There's that law again, 10 years of destitute with the medical profession before they can offer alternatives. So he spiked the people's intestines with whipworms. Now these are people who, if they drank water, they'd have diarrhea, cramping, or vomit. Anything they ate or touched would be a problem. People suffered anywhere from 12 to 32 years with this problem. After 5 days of having the whipworm in their intestines, they could digest everything, asymptomatic in 5 days. Think about that. Asymptomatic, suffered all that time, and you get this parasite, which we're told trichinosis, oh, that's a bad thing. You know, from pigs, don't get it. Well, most of the tribes, human tribes all over the world, human tribes, all have trichinosis and digest wonderfully. So it's a natural part of pigs and humans to have trichinosis. So now, you can get trichinosis in vials, but you can't get it in this country. You have to go to Germany and get it. Or you have to order from Germany and hope they don't intercept your packet. So you can buy trichinosis now. The other one patient who didn't react, he didn't have anything bad happen, nothing. He says nothing good, but some of the description of how better he functioned was obvious. He did get a little bit better, although he still had cramping, diarrhea, and vomit. His cramping wasn't as bad, and a lot of his other symptoms were mitigated maybe by 15-20%. So don't be afraid of parasites. Don't be afraid of any of that stuff. Bacteria, virus, none of that stuff. And viruses are not alive. That's a fiction. 30 years ago, everybody knew viruses were not alive. You never gave an antibiotic to anybody who got a virus because it was senseless. There was nothing live. What they do is analyze fluid, and they find a lot of RNA and DNA of cell breakdown. So now they're saying, well, viruses are alive to eat that. No, it's just a solvent. It goes in there just like you take muriatic acid and you put it on, even dried paint or grease, and it'll just emulsify it and break it down, and then you dilute it with water, and what do you have? You have a whole bunch of contaminated water. That's the same thing when your body uses virus, but that's the last stage. Your body will go to parasites, bacteria first. Secondarily, it'll go to fungus to help clear out the body. No matter what the New Age alternatives say about your fungus. Oh, get rid of this. Go on a fungus-free diet to get rid of it. That's not your friend. Your friend is the fungus. It's going to help get rid of the certain kinds of decay that the bacteria and parasites can't get rid of. Then, if none of those three can do it, your cells create virus, solvents to dissolve tissue. But it's the same problem because they're not alive. There's no reduction in waste. When bacteria, the parasites and fungus eat something, it's like us. We can eat 7-8 pounds of food a day, and we have a pound of bowel movement the next day. It's reduced considerably, 20%. In virus, in fungus, it's reduced down to about 5%. In parasites and bacteria, that waste is reduced 1 to 5%. Somebody's I want a janitor who takes 100 pounds of waste and breaks it down into 1 to 5 pounds. And all I have to do is take out the 1 to 5 pounds. That's the janitor I want. Not the virus that comes in and leaves me with 2 cauldrons, 55-gallon drums of toxic waste. That's why when you have a flu, which is viral, you have a lot more symptoms. You have a lot more waste to get rid of. That's why when you have spinal meningitis or cerebral meningitis that is viral, you have a lot more swelling. And your chances of getting paralyzed are predominant. If you have bacterial meningitis of either kind, your chances of getting paralyzed, having some kind of rupture in the spine or brain, is almost negligent. So understand not to be afraid of the things the medical profession wants you to be afraid of. You be afraid of them and everything they say. Because they will sucker you in with fear. Fear is their key. They are terrorists. They are the greatest terrorists on this planet. Yes.
So if you've been exposed to a lot of injection, is it
Vaccine?
vaccines? Thank you. Is it raw eggs one of the best ways to flush your system?
Absolutely. I have in the recipe book, there is a juice detoxifier that helps. You can drink clay. I suggest Caroline clay. It's a clay that is mined from an old thermal spring out in the Mojave Desert. They mine it where the water was never over 98 degrees, so all the phosphorus is still present and utilizable. And what I suggest people do is clay is a great probiotic when it is active. If you take clay and put it in a fluid and drink it, by the time it leaves your body, it's just going to begin to be active 24 hours later. It is not going to give you much probiotic activity. All the probiotics that are powdered, you're not going to get much from that, 2% maximum. If you take that clay and you put it in water and make it into a plaster of Paris consistency, wait 4 days, highly bioactive. And it will just start pulling contamination out of the body. So it's about 1.5 cups of the Terran clay to 1 cup of good drinking water.
No, teaspoons.
You're making 2 cups at a time, so you have to make it every 4 days.
So
I make 2 cups at a time. So you have 1.5 cups of clay, 1 cup of water. Now that says, wait, you've got 2.5 cups there. There's a lot of airspace in clay. And when it mixes with water, it reduces down. So that 2.5 cups will render 2 cups of clay, moist clay. So after that's 4 days, well, you start using it right away. But from 4 days to 20 years later, it'll be the most active after the 4 days. So I take a tablespoon of that, and I'll put it in 2 to 3 to 4 ounces of milk, blend it together. Now the determined clay makes the milk taste like chocolate milk. Don't know why, but it's pretty tasty. So just drink that. And your body will use that for 24 hours to pull a lot of toxins out of the body. Another way I tell people to have a train of food going through there collecting toxicity is to eat no salt raw cheese. You eat just like a sugar cube amount. So say when you first wake in the morning, you have a tablespoon and a half. Absorb all those poisons that are dumped during the night, during your sleep period, because a lot dump in the stomach intestines. So that first dose of cheese will go in there and start collecting before food comes through afterwards. And then some people who are highly toxic, let's say who grew up around farms with a lot of pesticides, I tell them to have a little sugar cube size amount of no salt raw cheese every 20 to 30 minutes of their waking hours. So they have a train of this toxicity carrying poisons out so it doesn't get mixed with the food. Now it's only the raw unsalted cheese that will do that. If you have salted raw cheese, the salt does what? Breaks it up, explodes it, and allows it to be redigested. So you're going to redigest all those poisons that it's absorbed. If you eat pasteurized cheese, salted or not, cheese made from pasteurized dairy, salted or not, you're going to reabsorb the poisons. So only in raw no salt cheese will that work to pass the poisons out. Your body will not digest it unless you eat it directly with honey. Now I suggest that people get their mineral supplement from that cheese after eating their meat meals. So you have like 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of raw cheese with 1.5 to 1.5 teaspoons of honey. Very small amount of honey with 3 times to 6 times the cheese. Okay? And you mix that together. You will digest those minerals in that cheese, and that's your mineral supplement. It can help. I've seen people restore by having that twice daily, 7 days a week, over a period of a year and a half, restore 22% osteoporosis in 1 year. So, yeah.
You can buy some raw cheeses now commercially because it gets around pasteurization laws, but like a raw blue cheese, if you can find one without salt, they have what is penicillium roqueforti? Or it's like they use this penicillin, I guess, to cause all of that, pretty blue mold in there. What is that, and where does it come from? Is it like the penicillin you're given as a kid, injected with
They grow it the same way.
So it's just as
But
toxic.
they sterilize it. That's the problem. They sterilize it.
Okay.
And what happens is fungus has a cycle. All fungus have cycles. They may have 3 months of activity, 3 months no activity. 6 months activity, 6 months hibernating. When they sterilize the penicillin fungus, and they grow it on pasteurized dairy anyway, so it's already bad. They sterilize it, it kills, destroys the RNA that tells the fungus to go in hibernation, so it's always active. So people who have penicillin growing in the body never shuts down. And it can be a major part of Crohn's disease or some other intestinal problem or even brain damage.
And eating that cheese.
I see most penicillin growing in people in the intestines and brain.
And eating that cheese just adds to that penicillin.
No, it helps kill it. The good will eat the bad.
But the penicillin that would be in, a raw cheese.
That's not penicillin. It's a fungus. It's not penicillin. The way they've named it, described it, applies to their medication.
Okay.
Okay. Once it's a medication, then it's called penicillin. Otherwise, it's just blue cheese mold fungus.
Okay.
And I like that. I love it because you can make Roquefort dressing with it. So I take my raw no salt cheese and I'll swirl it, the aerospace, take some out of the container and let it sit in the refrigerator for 3 months. And it's full of the blue mold. And it's Roquefort. Tastes just like, just tastes like blue cheese. So I love blue cheese and I love Roquefort dressing, so I'll mix that with cheese and some raw cream and some garlic and I have Roquefort dressing.
But so, because I bought this stuff at Whole Foods, and granted it does have salt in it, so I've been cheating in that respect. But if you don't consider the salt and that Roquefort that's in that cheese, that raw cheese, is that the good Roquefort? But it's in, that's a good mold, but it's in a bad cheese because it has salt.
Any fungus that is natural on a fruit or any kind of a food is fine as long as you're not eating the mushroom part of it, the spores.
Okay.
And the spores aren't bad, it's just that it'll create such a detoxification, fungal detoxification in your body that may not be comfortable.
Priscilla's got a cut.
Yes.
So with the iridology that you do, are you seeing toxins in people?
I can see where they are.
You can see where they
I'll
are.
get rid of them, which ones are predominant.
And that's what you're looking for when
I
you
tell you exactly what to eat, how much to eat, what times of the day. On that.
Are you still taking consults for the next?
You have a
Yes,
couple.
if I have time. I'm staying until Wednesday. I told you I was going to stay an extra day to play.
Great.
Every time I've done that in the past, I've filled up with appointments and never got time to play. But I just had one more extra day this time, so I'm not leaving until Wednesday.
Great.
So I have plenty of time.
We're going to fill up Sunday and Monday first, though, so we still have some opening slots Sunday and Monday.
Yes.
And you can't really drink non-raw milk.
Can I drink what?
Milk if it's not raw.
Pasteurized.
Pasteurized milk.
What is
Well,
that
now
cause
they what do they call that? Super pasteurized? What is it?
Ultra.
Ultra pasteurized. They take it up to 212 degrees. So all of your calcium, all of your phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, all of it's cauterized. All it's going to do is give you diabetes.
Really?
And
So it
cause
does
other
cause-
problems. Osteoporosis. It's been tested and proved to cause about 5 different diseases. Diabetes and osteoporosis are 2 major ones. So, not a good idea.
All milk is that way now, even organic milk?
Pardon?
All milk is that way now, even organic milk?
Well, it's worse. If you buy, let's say you go to, City Market and buy their milk, the regular, Dean Foods milk, they take the milk, they take all animal cells out of it. So all the fat they remove, all the creams removed, all of the animal protein. It's blue. At that point, it's a blue chemical. They have piles of dough. If you've ever seen one of their factories, and there's huge factories, they have dolomite piles the size of your mountains. And they just shovel that in to make it white again. And then they add a what? Hydrogenated vegetable oil as the fat. Because it's a plastic fat and will have a shelf life of over 100 years or more. Or 2,000, 10,000 years. So that's what you're drinking when you're drinking from a regular store-bought milk. If you're buying from Horizon or one of those, it's simply pasteurized. It's not mucked with like the big dairies do. But it's still not good. But those big dairy, like Dean Foods, for instance, their dairy, that is highly poisonous. It can create 2,200 diseases.
What about almond milk?
Pardon?
How do you feel about almond milk?
You have to heat it, you have to pasteurize it, you have to do all kinds of things to that. You can make it yourself, but it's going to be high in phytic acid like enzymes. They say if you germinate grains, if you germinate nuts, it'll relieve the phytic acid. It does, but it produces 3 other enzymes that are identical to phytic acid. So you've got 3 times the problem.
So when you sprout your almonds? overnight and make almond milk the next day.
That's what I'm saying. You've got 3 other enzymes that are now present in all sprouts. See, what happens is, the way you can prove that is you take a bird and you feed them nothing but sprouts. It'll be dead in 3 to 4 days. Highly poisoned. Sprouts are not good except in small amounts. Very, very tiny amounts. As a medicine. And that's it. So, these people that take chemistry one step and they've got the room to go, it's not a good thing because they mislead people. I was misled terribly being a vegetarian for 6.5 years. I got down to 96 pounds and dying again. Wasn't a good way. Yes?
So, in the book you talk about other diseases like Alzheimer's or even children that might have ADD.
Yeah. There are over 200 common diseases that I have over 2,000 natural food remedies in this book. In this book, I tell you how to do the diet, the first 50 pages. Then there's about 100 and some pages of recipes, and then the last 50 pages is the scientific evidence to validate the diet, including the Joel Weinstock stuff with the trichinosis. Yes.
Can you tell me the relative benefit of going on a hybrid diet, such as say raw meat, and for example, say really like it with soy sauce and wasabi or whatever on there. Is that still providing some benefit?
Absolutely, absolutely. I tell everybody this: if you only eat one raw food in your whole life, you're giving your body some good nutrients. But also, you have to consider every time you're putting a poisonous substance in your body, you're taking away from your energy of enjoying life and putting you on a road to disease. So it's up to you to determine how much raw you want to be. I know that Brandon's gone in and out of different phases. And when he goes out of the raw food diet, he doesn't do very well, emotionally and other ways. So it all depends on what you feel is important for your life. Everybody has their, ratio. I feel good at this level. I had people come to me for cancer before the books were out, and they didn't know what I was doing, and I had to take them to a seminar first, or an emergency. I would take the case. I charged $1,000 for a person who hadn't read the books or hadn't been to a workshop, because it would take me 7 hours to tell them how to do the diet. And I had people sit there dying of cancer and way out and say, I'd rather die of cancer and suffer terribly than change my diet. And I say, well, that's your choice. That's not my problem. If you want to die eating that diet, I have no judgment against you. It's your life. I wish you happiness, whatever way it may be. So I have no judgment about it. It says you have to determine what your quality of health you want to achieve. That's easy. Any more questions? Yes.
I just have a question about the grocery store. So would there be really anything you could get at the grocery store?
No. Well, City Market has organic bison. They also have some other organic meats. And that's where I buy my meats here. It's the only place I can get them. They also have an organic produce section, and I don't know if I trust them.
What about yogurt?
No, that's all pasteurized, all processed stuff.
But if you take, like we did last night, raw milk from Sustainable Settings or Kinnikin Dairy, which we sat at the dairy, Davis smiled, and you actually put a teaspoon of your own saliva into a quart of milk, you will make kefir perfectly designed with the probiotics for your body. Not for someone else to drink. If you want to make community kefir with probiotics, then you'll put a teaspoon or a tablespoon of honey, raw unheated honey in it, and you leave it out. So the teaspoon of saliva in a quart of milk, and you leave it out, and you've got pre-digested kefir designed specifically for you. This is like
They've been doing that
This
for
is
thousands of
incredible.
years. They used to take in infants that couldn't eat, they take the saliva or urine or feces from the infant, rub it on the udder of the cow, and take the milk stay, and the baby would recover in 24 hours. And they just put the milk on the mouth, and within an hour or two, the baby would be eating. And within 24 hours, the baby would be well. And we just watch babies just die in masses here in our society. I like eggs with fecal matter. The more bacteria, the better. I don't like them washed because it breaks the ability for the bacteria to remain and keep growing in it and produce a chickie. So I don't like to clean glasses, so I eat the egg right out of the eggshell. Makes it very easy. So what I do is I take the fat end, you've got a fat end and a thinner end, and I take the fat end and I hit it against an eye-tooth flat. So, see, I've fractured the bottom, the integrity of the shell without puncturing a hole. You see that back there? Okay, so there's no hole there, but there's a lot of cracking in that shell. Okay, now this end, the pointed end, now you have to make that pretty large, and it has to be almost centered, because you've got a membrane in there, and if you don't do that, it won't collapse and you won't get all the egg out of it. So, and then on this end you go down, not sideways, you go down on the eye tooth to make a hole. Now if that's a very hard membrane, you're going to have to break it with your nail or something sharp. Now I've got a hole, and I can start sucking it out. Now, in my laboratory experiments, I found that if you suck out the egg and eat the egg white first, it goes right to the liver, helps the liver produce a proper bile to handle the egg yolk. So it digests in 27 minutes. It's absorbed in the first 5 inches of the intestine. It doesn't have to go spend 24 hours going all the way through. So you absorb all those nutrients. So what I do is then I suck it, fecal matter along. Suck it gently.
This is a real scientist here.
I swallow it once, it's no longer slimy. And it just tastes like salt, slightly salty water. And if you do it gently, the egg white will come out. Sometimes, like this one, the chick was starting to form slightly, so the yolk is attached to the egg white. So I have to loosen it. And then I'll suck again. And the egg white comes. Then I'm down to the egg yolk.
Are you sloshing it around in your mouth, like side to side?
I want that bacteria in that egg pre-digesting it. Now normally that'll collapse. That was one of the hardest membranes I've ever run into.
No, are you
I'll do another one.
swishing? You're not chewing, you're just swishing.
Swishing it, you can chew if you want. Swishing creates a little bit more saliva than chewing.
There's no cracking and putting in a glass.
You can do that, but then you clean a glass all day. I eat, 10 of these a day. Like this, I don't want to be cleaning a glass.
What about putting in a blender in a smoothie? Does that totally defeat the purpose?
Pardon?
Putting a raw egg in a smoothie, does that
No,
totally
that's a good
change
thing.
the way it's...
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
There's, I have a lot of recipes for milkshakes.
Mhm.
Smoothies are with fruit, of course. Milkshake is just honey, egg, and milk and cream. And that's very good for helping you produce mucus. If you've got dry throat or if you've got a flu, help get the, if you're ejecting poisons out the mucous membrane, you need the mucus to form to discharge it. So those smoothies, milkshakes with and without fruit are very helpful in that situation. And you do 2 or 3 of those a day in that kind of situation to help you through the flu and cold faster, or cold faster.
Is raw milk kefir something to add that we can use? Raw milk kefir? Can we use that in our smoothies or milkshakes?
Remember, kefir is already pre-digested. So it's going to be quick. Not still as quick as egg, but it'll take about 6 hours to digest. Milk that isn't kefirized may take 10 hours to digest.
But you can mix fruit in it, mix strawberry, kefir, you know.
Okay.
You can put eggs in it and use it just like a milkshake.
So we can make a milkshake with kefir as well as the other. Just
So before you leave today, you all have to do one.
See how that collapsed in? Where I broke the integrity of the fat end? It collapsed with the membrane. That one was the hardest one I've ever seen. Never happened before. It's the first time. So you can see how it just collapses in there, and there's nothing left in there. Completely, everything's clean.
Are those even organic grocery store eggs bad too?
No, I mean, you can get some truly organic stuff, but I would say don't trust it enough not to wash it.
Wash the eggs?
Oh, no, not the eggs.
I mean, can you eat raw eggs from the grocery store, or do you not?
Never. Oh, they feed them arsenic, strychnine, all kinds of things, because they're being told that they cannot use all the antibiotics in the feed they used to, so they're putting rat poison and other insecticides in there.
Even organic eggs?
Even organic eggs.
Now with the eggs, if you're eating a lot of eggs, you want to make sure that the chickens aren't eating soy, and Aajonus will talk about soy, but sustainable settings, and there's a few resources that we have where you can get non-soy, because you don't want to eat soy, and you certainly don't want the chickens making the eggs eating the soy.
Raw soy will kill any kind of bird or human. You can't eat raw soy, nor get any bird. So when they say organic eggs and they've used soy that's been organically grown, doesn't mean anything, because once they take the organically grown soy and they process it into a feed, they've used the kerosene to break it down, to destroy the enzymes which will kill the bird, plus they cooked it. So it's a misnomer calling it organic eggs. It's a lie as big as anything. Bold-faced lie.
What if you cook the egg store-bought?
Well, you get from a farm, a local farm around here, get in touch with the farmers. It's the only way you're going to get pure food is to go to your farmer, support your farmer. Brandon's family helped start a new farm, that produces milk for the members, and the eggs and a lot of really organic produce. In fact, I went over the farm yesterday, spent time with them going over everything, what they did, and they're one of the first in this area that I've allowed to use my bioeco organic label. See, they can't use organic at the markets because they have to be certified organic, but that doesn't mean anything anymore. Bioeco organic is going to be like, way grades above organic.
Which farm?
You just need to get those farmers going. And if all of you have to pull together to do it, do it.
Which farm are you talking about?
Can I give them that information?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Sustainable
settings. We didn't
settings.
support the starting of the farm, but the raw dairy there. There's some people who got together 3-4 years ago to bring some money together to start a raw dairy. They were sidetracked for a while by Pitkin County for a couple of years, but now they have, how many, 8, 10, 12 cows now?
But only 3 are producing. They've got 5 that are pregnant, and they'll be coming into production quite soon, so there's going to be a lot of milk available. In about 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, so I have a question then about using the raw milk. I haven't had any in quite a while till recently, and I probably drank more than I should have, but a pretty big cup, and man, I got really bad diarrhea. Is that just flushing?
Yep.
And would you want to just start then with smaller amounts?
Well, it's up to
Or
you.
you don't worry
It's up
about
to
that?
you. Most people don't have that. That only happens at about 3-5%, depending upon the location.
Mhm.
If they're in a big city, it's going to happen up to 12% because there's more pollution. In an area, farm area, and a cleaner area like this, happens 2 to 3% only. So if you do it again, it probably won't happen. You've done it the next day. Some people, when it happens, it does happen for 5, 6, even 2 weeks at a time. Depending upon how many toxins the intestine has to get rid of. Then there's no symptoms whatsoever after it's clean. Not completely clean, but that was causing a big problem. The body has diarrhea when it's only something that's heavily caustic in that colon. And you only vomit when there's something very concentrated and poisonous. Usually the nausea sets off the stomach to produce hydrochloric acid and bind with the poisons. Then the nausea will go away once enough hydrochloric acid is produced and neutralizes the poison. Then you just pass the stuff through, and if it hits the intestines, the bowel, and it's still pretty caustic, then you have diarrhea with it. But you don't always have to vomit just because you have nausea. But it could be a preferable way to send it out of the body. Then you have to worry about it contaminating anything while it passes through the intestines.
But you're saying it's not necessarily what you ate that's making you sick.
Right, it's the old stuff in the body. Just remember, you've had your whole lifetime of eating industrial chemical poison, 60,000 of them. Air pollution, water pollution, everything. Medical, especially if you've had vaccines. Vaccines cause 70% of all present-day diseases. Are we finished?
So can you talk just a little bit to end about the mini consult, because we'd like to offer mini consults. We're going to also do a raw food potluck, and for those that didn't bring anything, we prepared some dishes that you can try: chicken ceviche, fish ceviche, and also a red meat dish that'll be happening soon. But Aajonus will be available for these shorter mini consults, which I believe are glandular analysis using the hands, but also what your long consults are, so that they know that you'll be here for a couple days.
What I do the short mini consult with the palms. And it's not soothsaying. It's not a psychic thing. It's like the Chinese patterns, colorations and nouns on the hands. And that's $40. It takes 6 to 10 minutes. And what I can do is I can tell how functional your glands are. I can see how your blood's doing, how your lymphatic system is doing. And I can suggest foods for you to basically focus on to make it easier for you to get onto the diet. If you come to me for my full consult, the initial consult is about 70 minutes. It's almost an hour and 15 minutes. And with that, I photograph the irises and I blow them up. You can see a pinprick on the eye as big as my finger. So you can see, I can see everything in the body that is extracellular, outside the cells. If it's inside the cells, I can't really tell easily. But in the palms I can, because that's mostly intercellular activity. So putting the two together gives me a complete in and outside picture of the body. And in that full consult, I'll go through every part of the body and show you what's there, tell you what's going on, why it's the problem, how you can remedy it. And then at the end, after I've seen everything, and you also have to write a health history. And I don't look at it until after I'm finished the reading before I suggest what there is. There's only maybe 1 out of 200 that I missed something. So that also verifies that I know what I'm talking about, because I've already talked about your symptoms and problems before you told me. Okay? So you know what I'm talking about. Then I will tell you what to eat, what time to eat, how much to eat, all that, to help you achieve better health quicker. And that's the story. Now, the 6 to 10 minutes, I usually invite everybody who wants to listen to learn more to listen along with when I read people. We didn't make time for that because you went right from the 2 hours to the, to the potluck.
Well, we'll see if anyone else is here for the potluck, because if there's people who want to do the consult, the mini consults, we can just do that for a bit and then transition.
Well, why don't we just do the potluck and then do the hams?
In case
I'm sure people are hungry by now. Are you hungry?
And one
I had to suck 2 eggs. I was so
one thing that's neat about the digital photos is Aajonus saves them. So, like, I have my digital irises over the last 8-10 years, and so you can see your eyes actually changing year to year as you begin to clean parts of your body.
change for the better. People who are on a bad diet, you see it change for the worse year after year.
You didn't say how much that longer consult
Oh, the
was?
long consult, the first is $385. Then the follow-ups are $315 every year. I've only raised my price once in 12 years. And most of the nutritionists who can do not even near what I do charge $2,000 to walk in the door and give you a piece of paper with a lot of $10,000 of vitamins and supplements to buy. I like to keep it reasonable.
And it may seem like a lot, but you'll get more information than you would going to the Mayo Clinic. And
well, you go to a doctor or a hospital for one visit, you're looking at thousands of dollars. I cut out all of that. It's amazing. People are going from. I have one patient who was spending $60,000 a year because she kept having open heart surgery. She's been on the diet 11 years, hasn't gone back to the doctor but once to show them how well she is. Never any x-rays, but they do blood tests and they do, the ultrasound on her carotid arteries and everything. And she's 79 years old and hasn't had a problem since she went on the diet. She had 3 heart bypasses before that. And she says, I had 9 symptoms before I went to Aajonus, and now I don't have any. 79 years old, though.
And I would
look at all the money she saved.
I would be more than happy to, if you could only pay half, to front you the rest so that you could do a payment plan with True Nature. It's no problem. It's just we want to get people in to see this man because what he's doing is off the charts amazing. And so
Well, the food doesn't. I'm just the guy.
Yeah. Well, Dave and I want to support you and support the people and taking advantage of this.
All right. So if you want to get a consult, see Priscilla.
I give you, yeah, I can help you with financial plans too.
Okay, so we go enjoy some potluck.